Undertaker vs. Hakeem. The story goes that back in the early 1980s, Mark Calloway, the guy who became The Undertaker, was playing pickup basketball in Houston. Not just anywhere though, the Fond Recreation Center, the spot where legends went to sweat it out in the off-season. And The Undertaker, he ended up on the same team as Hakeem. That's already wild. Now, The Undertaker had hoops in his background. He was no random 7-footer running around lost. He played high school ball, did a stint in college, and even got a little attention from scouts overseas before trading sneakers for steel chairs. So when he walked into Fonda, he wasn't just there to rebound and stretch, but here's the twist. He got thrown into the guard spot, out of his comfort zone, not exactly where a guy his size likes to hang out. And during one of those games, he brought the ball up the left side, crossed half court, and caught Hakeem signaling for an alley-oop. The Undertaker lobbed it up, thought he blew it, then watched Hakeem rise up and hammer it down. Hakeem looked back and hit him with a nice pass, man. The Undertaker walked out of that gym feeling like Magic Johnson. And supposedly, he wasn't just playing with Hakeem. The summer crew included names like Clyde Drexler, Charles Barkley, and Moses Malone. That pickup run may have been one of the most stacked lineups outside of an actual NBA arena. Kobe calls his teammates bums. During the 2014 to 2015 season, the Lakers were falling apart. Kobe was injured, out with a torn rotator cuff, and the team was dragging through one of the worst years in franchise history. Then came the story that dropped into basketball folklore like a hammer. Jeremy Lin shared it on a podcast, and it's been echoing ever since. According to Lin, Kobe randomly showed up at practice right before the trade deadline. He wasn't even playing. He strolled in, wearing a sling and sunglasses, sat at the scoreboard table, and dropped a grenade on the room. "I just came by to say bye to some of you bums who are going to get traded tomorrow." Then he left, like a scene out of a movie. Lin said one teammate lost all motivation to practice after hearing that. That's how sharp the line cut. The wildest part, nobody actually got traded. Kobe's prediction didn't play out, but the message, crystal clear. It fit everything fans already knew about his intense mindset. He didn't believe in sugarcoating. Some of the guys still went to talk to him afterward, so it wasn't pure hostility. It felt more like a calculated moment. Classic psychological pressure. Whether he meant it as a challenge, a jab, or just frustration boiling over, it worked. It rattled the locker room. The whole thing turned into a perfect snapshot of late career Kobe. Sling, shades, stone face, and a verbal haymaker. He may not have moved the roster, but he sure moved the energy in that gym. That's the kind of story that sticks. Kevin Durant and LeBron James made a rap song during the 2011 NBA lockout. With the league shut down and players scattered, something unexpected happened off the court. Kevin Durant and LeBron James hit the studio and recorded a track called It Ain't Easy. Yeah, you heard that right. Two of the league's biggest stars swapped the hardwood for a microphone. Durant reportedly brought the beat. He opened the track with a verse, handed it off to LeBron, then came back to close it out. The lyrics dove into personal themes, tattoos, single-parent homes, rising from tough beginnings. LeBron even dropped a line about his dad saying, "It's all good, Pops. You made a king strong." They kept the song under wraps for years. No contracts, no official clearance, and definitely no streaming platforms. The producer behind it, Frankie Wahoo, held onto the track until 2018, when he finally uploaded it to SoundCloud, but not with the original beat. That part had to be reworked to avoid copyright issues. TMZ allegedly offered $250,000 to get the rights to it, but the deal was turned down. LeBron's camp reportedly had concerns. The quote, "This is the first time LeBron's been human." Basically, they were afraid a not-so-great rap might take the shine off his image. The track never made it to an album or a soundtrack. No commercials, no NBA video game. But it did circulate among fans, DJs, and blogs. The session happened during a moment when players were finding other outlets. And somehow, this one still feels like the strangest. A quiet studio, two global icons, and a beat that might never get its proper debut. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Carolina's winning curse. The Charlotte Hornets have had a tough time stringing together success. They've never had back-to-back winning seasons in their entire existence in the modern era. Since 2003, when they became the Bobcats, they have never had back-to-back winning seasons. This is a team that's been around since 2004, with over 1,100 total losses. One bright spot, 10 playoff appearances, but the back-to-back consistency, non-existent. But then to make it even crazier, their neighbor, the Carolina Panthers, somehow they've never, not once, had two winning seasons in a row either. Not in the 1990s, not in the 2000s. Not during Cam Newton's MVP run. They've had some amazing peaks like 15-1 in 2015, but the following year, 6-10. It's like they're allergic to momentum. This franchise has made the playoffs 8 times and even went to the Super Bowl twice. Still, every time they look like they're building something, the next season punches it to the ground. Over 20 seasons, not a single pair of back-to-back winning records. Not one. That's not just bad luck. That's city-level instability on repeat. Chuck Person goes bird hunting. Back in the early 90s, Chuck Person, better known as the Rifleman, had a reputation for 2 things: launching threes and launching trash talk. His nickname came from the old Western TV show The Rifleman, starring Chuck Connors. Fittingly, Person shared the name and had the kind of jump shot that left scorched nets and angry defenders. So when Indiana was getting ready to face Boston around Christmas, Person decided to stir things up. Before the game, he told reporters, "The Rifleman is coming, and he's going bird hunting." Subtlety was not part of the plan. Larry Bird, never one to back down from verbal warfare, got wind of it. And when the game tipped off, he went straight to work. In one moment, that's now pure legend, Bird pulled up from deep, right in front of Indiana's bench, nailed the 3, and turned to Person with a present of his own. Merry freaking Christmas. Except he didn't say freaking. That game happened on December 26th, not the 25th, but the timing didn't matter. The message was clear. Talk trash to Larry Bird, and you'd better be ready for a response. Delivered in the form of buckets. Bird didn't just silence opponents, he humiliated them with timing, delivery, and brutal precision. In Person, he got the full Bird experience, wrapped with a bow and a 3-point dagger. That line became part of NBA folklore, a perfect mix of trash talk, holiday spirit, and on-court payback. Timber Bulls. Thibs wasn't just trying to coach in Minnesota, he was basically trying to teleport the entire Chicago locker room up north. It started with him getting full control as both coach and team president, and right out of the gate, he brought in Jimmy Butler. That wasn't a coincidence. Butler was his guy back in Chicago, and now he was Minnesota's new centerpiece. Then came Taj Gibson, another former Bull who had played under Thibs during those gritty playoff runs. But it didn't stop there. Derrick Rose joined mid-season, and it felt like a time machine moment. Rose was no longer the explosive MVP, but Thibs still believed in him. The reunion tour was rolling, and suddenly, the Timberwolves felt like the Timber Bulls. The whole thing had a strange energy, like they were trying to recreate something that was already gone. Reports even tied Thibs to Joakim Noah, who was out of the Knicks rotation at the time. If he'd been bought out, the theory says Thibs would have gone for him too. You had chemistry questions, fit issues, and aging bodies all piled into one bold experiment. It wasn't about building something new, it felt like chasing something familiar. That's what made the Timberwolves more than just a nickname. It was a real attempt to rewind time. Carmelo to the Lakers. According to Carmelo himself, this wasn't just a rumor. He says the deal was finished. On an interview with D. Wade, he dropped the bomb. The Nuggets were ready to send him and Nene to the Lakers in exchange for Lamar Odom and Andrew Bynum. He didn't even think about New York. That was never his plan. He said the trade got crushed at the last second. Not by the league, not by the Lakers, but by his own coach, George Karl. Melo says Karl, straight up, turned it down. The Knicks only got involved after the Lakers deal fell through. So now the whole story takes a turn. This wasn't some fantasy trade machine scenario. Melo said it was real, signed, and blocked. The timing checks out too. In February of that year, Melo did end up getting moved, just not to Los Angeles. He went to the Knicks in that massive multi-team deal. Meanwhile, the Lakers still had Bynum and Odom playing major roles. And later that same year, the Lakers went after Chris Paul in another mega deal that got vetoed. So they were clearly in the business of making huge moves. But this trade never got to the finish line. There's no public documentation, no leaked memos, no Lakers staff confirming anything. Just Melo's word. Still, it lines up with what was happening at the time. And knowing how the league was shifting back then, it makes sense. If Karl didn't pull the plug, Kobe and Melo could have ended up as teammates in Los Angeles. Flipping the whole decade on its head, Pacers destroy Blazers. This game wasn't just a loss, it was a demolition derby in sneakers. On February 27th, 1998, the Indiana Pacers absolutely torched the Portland Trail Blazers with a final score of 124-59. That's a 65-point beatdown, making it one of the most lopsided games in league history. But here's the part that really turns it into a bizarre trivia gem. Indiana more than doubled Portland's total points. That had never happened before in an NBA game. It was like Portland's offense took a personal day. They managed only 14, 15, 14, and 16 points across the 4 quarters. That's not a bad half, that's their whole night. Meanwhile, Indiana poured it on, finishing the game with a 40-point fourth quarter, just to make sure the humiliation was permanent. And it worked. The Blazers shot just over 33% from the field, missed 14 of their 17 free throws, and coughed up 44 turnovers. Yes, 44. You almost have to try to be that careless. Indiana wasn't exactly perfect either. They had 34 turnovers. But when you shoot over 63% and double your opponent's score, nobody remembers the mistakes. The Pacers dominated rebounds 54-38 in just about every other stat worth tracking. This game became one of the league's historic blowouts, second only to Cleveland's 68-point massacre over Miami back in 1991. For Portland, this wasn't just a bad night. It was a franchise low that still sits alone in their history books as the only time they've ever been doubled in points. That's not a record you hang a banner for. Eric Chenoweth's NBA journey. If persistence were points, Eric Chenoweth would be an all-star. This 7'1" center was signed by at least 8 different NBA teams and still never played a single regular season minute. That's not just hard to do, it's practically art. It all started with the New York Knicks back in 2001. That gig lasted a few months. From there, it was a blur of short preseason stops. Sacramento, Seattle, both Los Angeles teams, Denver, Chicago, and even New Orleans. It was like he had a league-wide punch card, just missing that final stamp for actual playing time. Every time he got signed, it looked like maybe this would be it. He'd show up at training camp, maybe log some preseason minutes, and then waved again and again. The Hornets brought him in on October 1st, 2007. By October 11th, he was out. That's 10 days of hope before the next heartbreak. Through all of it, Chenoweth never touched the court in a regular season game, not once. He was drafted in 2001, yet his official NBA stat line still reads 0 everything. No points, no boards, no fouls, just a streak of contracts that didn't turn into careers. To be fair, he did carve out a professional life overseas and in minor leagues. But inside NBA arenas, he was the ghost of training camp, always around, never staying. That's what makes his story so weird. Most guys sign once, maybe twice, and fade out. But Chenoweth, he kept showing up, defying the odds, never quite crossing the line into the regular season. A career of almost, and a record only a few can match. Ace Bailey's workout maneuver. Right before the 2025 NBA draft, Ace Bailey pulled a move that instantly became a hot-button topic. Multiple reports came out saying he refused pre-draft workouts with nearly every interested team, all to try and land with the Washington Wizards at pick number 6. It wasn't subtle. According to insiders like Mark Stein, that was the entire plan. Limit exposure, narrow options, and steer right toward DC. He reportedly declined invites from the Jazz, the Sixers, and the Hornets, all of whom picked earlier than Washington. Bleacher Report even said there were no official visits at all. That's bold. Meanwhile, Bailey didn't offer much explanation. When asked, he just kept it vague, saying he was focused on basketball and controlling what he could control, which didn't answer anything. The strategy made noise. Paul George even commented that Bailey couldn't complain if his draft stock dropped. Fox Sports confirmed the 76ers had a workout planned, and Bailey canceled it. Some people called the move immature, others compared it to classic draft day power plays in other sports. The whole thing felt like a chess game behind the scenes. But Utah wasn't playing along. They had pick number 5, and they took him anyway. Afterward, rumors swirled that Bailey delayed arriving to Utah, adding more fuel to the drama. Whether it was a calculated bet or just risky advice from his camp, Bailey's attempt to manipulate the board put him in the spotlight before he ever stepped on the court. He may have wanted to wear a Wizards jersey, but the Jazz made sure that decision wasn't his. Dave Cowens' MVP snub. In 1973, Dave Cowens pulled off something almost no one else has. He won the league's Most Valuable Player award without being named to the All-NBA First Team. That's like winning Best Actor and then not being invited to the red carpet. It sounds made up, but it's all fact. Cowens averaged over 20 points, 16 rebounds, and 4 assists that season. He dominated the boards, played with relentless energy, and anchored one of the league's top teams. Voters clearly loved it. He took home MVP. He even grabbed the All-Star Game MVP for good measure. But when the All-NBA teams were announced, Cowens didn't crack the first team. Instead, he landed on the second team, behind Kareem at center. The first team that year, Jerry West, Nate Archibald, John Havlicek, Spencer Haywood, and Kareem. That's a stacked lineup. But still, the league's best player, according to MVP voters, wasn't one of the top 5, according to the media's All-NBA picks. At the time, all NBA teams followed stricter positional rules, so only one center could make first team. That slot went to Kareem. Cowens was left to share the second team with guys like Rick Barry and Pete Maravich. It's one of those strange artifacts of how voting worked back then. Different criteria, different voters, and a different league structure. Only Bill Russell had pulled off the same feat before. So yeah, Dave Cowens didn't make All-NBA First Team the year he was the MVP. It's bizarre, but totally real. And one of the weirdest honor snubs in NBA history, Thabo Sefolosha's broken leg. In April of 2015, Thabo's NBA career changed forever, and it had nothing to do with a basketball game. After leaving a nightclub in New York, he got caught up in a chaotic scene where another player, Chris Copeland, had been stabbed nearby. That's when police told Thabo and his teammate, Pero Antic, to clear the area. What happened next became national news. Thabo says he tried to hand a $20 bill to a panhandler when police suddenly swarmed him. He said he was confused, asked if he had done something wrong, and was then grabbed, shoved, and taken to the ground. During the arrest, his right leg was fractured, and the ligaments in his ankle were torn. He needed surgery and missed the rest of the season, including the playoffs. Just when the Atlanta Hawks were making a deep run, he was charged with resisting arrest and other misdemeanors, but took the case to trial. He was found not guilty on all counts. Then he sued the city and the NYPD. In 2017, New York settled with him for $4 million. After the injury, Thabo returned to the league, but he was never quite the same. He bounced around to teams like Utah and Houston, suffered more injuries, and slowly faded out of the spotlight. But his story stuck. He became a symbol of how police actions off the court can change everything for an athlete. The injury didn't just cost him games, it likely shortened his career. What started as a routine night out ended with surgery, a lawsuit, and a legacy forever shaped by something that never should have happened. Peyton Pritchard's 92-point Pro-Am game. In August of 2021, Celtics guard Peyton Pritchard walked into a Portland Pro-Am game and casually dropped 92 points. That's what multiple news outlets reported. CBS, Yahoo Sports, and Boston.com all ran with it. The final score, 165-163. So yeah, defense didn't RSVP. Pro-Am games aren't official NBA events, but they're still competitive summer showcases. And while these games don't come with standard box scores or verified league databases, the highlights were everywhere. Clips flying around on Instagram showing Pritchard pulling up from the logo, draining threes, and torching defenders with zero remorse. The numbers were jaw-dropping, but so was the setting. Pro-Am hoops usually come with a side of chaos, running clocks, loose officiating, and maybe a guy in flip-flops on defense. Still, 92 is 92. Even in a game where no one's fighting over screens or boxing out like it's the finals, putting up that many points requires both volume and rhythm. Pritchard clearly had both. There's no official stat sheet floating around, and the game won't show up on his NBA resume, but it happened, at least according to everyone who was there. And the buzz wasn't just internet fluff. The story ran through Boston media, and even NBA players took notice. Pritchard actually left Summer League to join this game, then returned to drop 30 in Vegas like nothing had happened. In a summer where everyone's just trying to stay sharp, Peyton decided to casually light up a Pro-Am and nearly hit triple digits. Whether it was officially tracked or not, that game turned into one of the wildest summer basketball moments in recent memory. Bill Russell, track star. Long before he was blocking shots in Boston, Bill Russell was clearing bars in the high jump. While most people know him as the Celtics legend, fewer realize he was also one of the best high jumpers in the world. Seriously. In 1956, the same year he led the U.S. to Olympic gold in basketball, Track and Field News ranked him as the 7th best high jumper on the planet. At the University of San Francisco, Russell competed in track and field with a focus on the high jump and 440-yard dash. He was clocked running the 440 in under 50 seconds, and by his senior year, he'd already stacked multiple wins at major meets like the Central California AAU and the West Coast Relays. That same spring, he reportedly cleared 6 feet 9 and 1/4 inches. That number shows up in write-ups and interviews, though some official track records list slightly lower marks. One Time article quoted his best jump at 6 feet 7.5. But either way, Russell had bounce. He even set a stadium record in Reno back in 1954, leaping 6 feet 5 at Mackay Stadium. Not bad for a college sophomore. He held USF's high jump record for decades, more than 60 years. Russell said he had a legit shot at making the U.S. Olympic high jump team in 1956. But rules back then forced athletes to choose one sport, so he picked basketball. Not a bad call, but imagine if one of the greatest shot blockers in history had also been soaring over the bar in Melbourne. Total legend, on the court and in the pit. Michael Cage's rebounding heist. In 1988, Michael Cage didn't just win the rebounding title, he hunted it down like it owed him money. Going into the final game of the season, Cage trailed Charles Oakley by the slimmest of margins. Depending on which report you trust, he needed either 28 or 29 boards to pull ahead. The number on the sign in his locker said 29. Just to be safe, he grabbed 30. That game was against the Seattle Supersonics, and Cage played all 48 minutes. The Clippers lost, but nobody cared. The crowd, the scoreboard, even his teammates were locked in on one thing: rebound. Each time he pulled one down, the tally crept closer to history. And with every board, Oakley's grip on the title slipped. By the end, Cage had done it. He passed Oakley by just over 0.02 of a rebound per game. That's how thin the margin was, a rounding error away from second place. But there's no asterisk next to his name. He's officially listed as the 1988 rebounding champion. Cage didn't just lead the league, he closed like a man possessed. 30 rebounds in one game is absurd on any night, but in that context, with the title on the line, it's downright legendary. He finished the season averaging over 13 boards per game, edging out Oakley thanks to that single performance. Most players ease into the offseason. Cage went out swinging, board after board, until the crown was his. That night cemented his place in NBA trivia forever. The guy who chased down 30 rebounds when it counted most and walked away with the title. Dave Winfield's 4-sport draft. In 1973, Dave Winfield pulled off one of the wildest feats in draft history. He got drafted by 4 different professional leagues. And no, that's not a typo. Baseball, basketball, football, and even the ABA all wanted a piece of him. Let's start with the one he picked, baseball. The San Diego Padres grabbed him 4th overall in the Major League Baseball draft. That's not a flyer, that's a top-tier pick. He skipped the minors entirely and went straight to the big leagues. But while the Padres knew what they were getting, the other leagues were just throwing darts at a generational athlete. In the NBA, the Atlanta Hawks picked him in the 5th round. Over in the ABA, the Utah Stars took him in the 6th. And here's where things get absurd. The Minnesota Vikings drafted him in the 17th round of the NFL draft, even though he'd never played a single down of college football. That's how ridiculous his athleticism was. This wasn't some crossover stunt. Winfield was a real 2-sport college athlete at Minnesota, playing both baseball and basketball. He was a legit prospect in all of them. But 4 drafts? That's unheard of. Most athletes dream of getting drafted once. Winfield had options like it was a buffet. He chose baseball, played over 2 decades, racked up over 3,000 hits, and landed in the Hall of Fame. But the fact that NFL teams were willing to draft a guy who hadn't touched a football field, that's legend status. Nobody's pulled off the 4-league sweep like Dave Winfield. He didn't just break the draft system, he ran laps around it. Jared Jeffries wins a Corolla on The Price is Right. Yes, this really happened. The 6'11" former NBA forward walked onto the stage, played a pricing game called One Away, and walked off with a brand new Toyota Corolla. The episode aired in January of 2023, but it was filmed a few months earlier, and the moment immediately went viral. Jeffries nailed the game, won the car, and celebrated like a man who had just hit a buzzer beater. But there was one little problem. He didn't exactly fit in the prize. Literally, at nearly 7 feet tall, Jared Jeffries is not the target demographic for a compact sedan. Reports say he realized this almost instantly and decided to give the car to his daughter instead. Probably a smart move, considering the last thing anyone wants is to watch an NBA player fold himself like origami just to hit the gas. This wasn't just a cameo. Jeffries actually competed as a contestant, called down from the audience like anyone else, and played the game like a fan. No NBA favoritism, no special treatment, just a very tall man winning a very small car on national TV. The clip lit up social media for obvious reasons. You've got a retired pro athlete, a random game show, and a prize that would barely qualify as a legroom upgrade for someone his size. But hey, a win is a win. Jared Jeffries went on The Price is Right, spun the wheel of destiny, and drove away, kind of, in one of the weirdest NBA post-career moments in recent memory. Mark Price coached Josh Smith. Before Josh Smith was dunking all over NBA defenses, he was a high school player at Whitefield Academy. And the guy coaching him, that was none other than Mark Price. Yes, that Mark Price. 4-time NBA All-Star, dead-eye shooter, and one of the league's most underappreciated point guards of the 90s. After his run in the NBA and a stint as an assistant coach at Georgia Tech, Price took over as head coach at Whitefield Academy in Atlanta for the 2000 to 2001 season. That just so happened to be when a young, high-flying Josh Smith was playing there. Their timelines overlap perfectly, and multiple sources confirm it. This wasn't a long-term coaching job for Price. It was a brief stop in a pretty wild post-playing career that's included everything from NBA assistant gigs to shooting consultant roles. But coaching a future NBA player while still early in his coaching journey, that's a fun little blip on the resume. For Smith, it was one of the early chapters before heading off to prep Power Oak Hill Academy and eventually jumping straight to the league. So yeah, there was a moment in Atlanta where a future NBA star was learning under a former NBA star. Just not something you hear about every day. Circus over the finals. In 1952, the NBA Finals looked less like a championship series and more like a scheduling accident. The Minneapolis Lakers were taking on the New York Knicks, but for the first 6 games, neither team could actually play in their real home arena. Why? Because the NBA was getting out-prioritized by the circus. Literally. Madison Square Garden, the Knicks' home court, was booked for the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. So instead of facing George Mikan under the bright lights of MSG, the Knicks were stuck playing their home games at the 69th Regiment Armory, a spot better suited for drills and parades than jump shots. On the Lakers side, things weren't much better. The Minneapolis Auditorium was already occupied, so their first 3 home games were held at the St. Paul Auditorium across the river. Technically still local, but definitely not their real home court. It wasn't until Game 7 that either team actually got to play in their proper arena. The Lakers finally returned to the Minneapolis Auditorium and made it count, winning 82-65 to take the title. That series is now remembered for more than just the basketball. It's one of the best examples of how far the league has come. Today, the NBA runs the calendar. But back then, if the Elephants were coming to town, you moved aside. Greg Ostertag's 0FG Marathon. On January 6, 1998, Greg Ostertag pulled off one of the weirdest stat lines in NBA history. 48 minutes and 43 seconds on the court. 0 made field goals. Not 1 bucket. And yet somehow, he still had one of the most impactful games of his career. The Jazz beat the Sixers 98-95 in overtime. Ostertag played almost the entire game. He took 5 shots, missed them all, and still finished with 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 points from the line, and 11 blocks. 11. That's not just a good night. That's swatting. Everything in sight, level defense. The best part? 0 turnovers. Nearly 49 minutes on the floor, actively defending the paint, drawing contact, going to the line, and never once gave the ball away. His field goal percentage was a flat 0, but he was everywhere else in the stat sheet. Utah had Karl Malone, John Stockton, and Jeff Hornacek running the offense. Ostertag's job? Hold down the paint and don't mess it up. And that's exactly what he did. His 5-shot attempts show he wasn't forcing anything. He stayed in his lane, block shots, grab boards, don't turn it over. No field goals, no problem. He still helped win an overtime game. This wasn't a scoring highlight, it was a masterclass in non-scoring impact. Ostertag owns the NBA record for most minutes played in a game without hitting a single shot. It's bizarre, but it's real, and it proves that sometimes the scoreboard isn't the only way to show you mattered. Dr. J and the Bucks. In the 1972 NBA draft, the Milwaukee Bucks used the 12th overall pick on Julius Erving. Yes, that Julius Erving. They drafted Dr. J, but he never played a second for them. And the whole thing turned into a legal circus faster than you can say ABA merger. At the time, Erving was already playing in the ABA for the Virginia Squires. On top of that, he'd signed a future deal with the Atlanta Hawks, who thought they were next in line once his ABA contract expired. The Bucks, having drafted him, said, nope, we hold his NBA rights. So now, there were 3 teams involved: the Squires, the Hawks, and the Bucks. And Julius Erving, he was caught in the middle. The NBA eventually backed the Bucks, ruling that Milwaukee held his NBA rights. But none of it mattered, because a federal judge issued an injunction saying Erving couldn't suit up for any team other than the Squire. So, no Hawks, no Bucks, just more ABA for another season. And here's the twist: Milwaukee never actually traded him. There was no deal, no package, no picks involved. He just never showed up. Legal red tape and competing contracts kept him out of their uniform completely. So yes, the Bucks did draft Dr. J. And no, he was never traded away. He just got locked out of Milwaukee by a web of contracts, lawsuits, and court rulings. One of the greatest players in basketball history was this close to teaming up with Kareem and Oscar. And then poof, it was over before it even began. Warriors Thunder, all-time classic. The Warriors rolled into Oklahoma City with 53 wins and just 5 losses, already steamrolling the league. But this night wasn't just about wins. It turned into something way bigger. The Thunder had 2 stars still in their prime, and Golden State had a target on their back. What unfolded was part stats, part story, and all chaos. Curry dropped 12 threes, tying the all-time record. That final bomb, 38 feet out with 0.6 left in overtime. Just pure silence in the arena. He'd already rolled his ankle earlier and limped off. So when he came back and did that, people couldn't believe it. He also broke the single-season three-point record that night. And right before halftime, Draymond Green and Steve Kerr reportedly clashed in the locker room. Tension all around. Add in Mike Breen's double bang call, and you've got one of those rare moments that feels scripted. Thunder fans looked frozen. That shot gets replayed constantly. It changed how people saw Curry in crunch time, and it felt like a shift in power too. The old guard was fading, and Golden State looked inevitable. A regular season game that still echoes today. Kobe's 81. The Lakers were down big against Toronto, and it didn't look good at all. But then Kobe went volcanic. He dropped 81 points, the second highest mark in league history. And no, it wasn't just chucking. He hit 28 of 46 shots. Over 60%. From deep, 7 threes on 13 tries. He was nearly perfect at the line, hitting 18 of 20. That's just nasty efficiency. The wild part is that 55 of those points came in the second half. He put up 27 in the third and 28 in the fourth. The Raptors actually led by as much as 18 in the third, but Kobe erased it. He scored 23 of his final points in the last 9 minutes. And while he wasn't racking up assists, he added rebounds, steals, and a block. His plus 25 shows the game shifted when he was on the floor. The crowd was losing its mind. Fans were chanting before the buzzer even sounded. In a season where he led the league in scoring, this was the night that sealed his legend. It's not just a stat line, it's a moment fans still talk about. LeBron's banked 3. Cleveland was down 1, and it looked like Washington had it wrapped up. But with 0.3 seconds on the clock, LeBron pulled off something ridiculous. Kevin Love heaved a full court pass to the corner. LeBron caught it mid-spin, faded away, banked it in, and sent the game to overtime. The shot was leaning, off balance, and nearly out of bounds. It defied geometry. Before that, LeBron had missed a close look on the same possession. That 3 completely flipped the vibe. He ended with 32 points, 17 assists, and 7 rebounds. Love added 39, making all 11 free throws. Kyrie iced it in overtime with a go-ahead 3. And this wasn't some sleepy mid-season snoozer. The Wizards were rolling. Beal dropped 41, and that home crowd was on fire. The Cavs had 20 turnovers, but still shot over 50% from the field and deep. That shot doesn't just live in highlight reels because it went in. It lives there because it shouldn't have. Every frame of that banked 3 fuels the myth. Add in the travel debate, the buzzer timing, and LeBron fouling out in overtime, pure chaos, and it only made the ending better. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Wilt's 100. On March 2nd, 1962, Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points for the Philadelphia Warriors in a 169-147 win over the New York Knicks. The game was played in Hershey, Pennsylvania, at a neutral site with just over 4,000 fans. He hit 36 of 63 shots and made 28 of 32 free throws, despite being a career 50% shooter at the line. He also grabbed 25 rebounds. No other Warrior scored more than 17. The Knicks' top scorer had 39. Wilt scored 59 points in one half alone, including a record 37 shots attempted in that span. By the fourth quarter, the crowd and even the public announcer were calling out his running total. Philadelphia intentionally fouled late to get the ball back and feed him. The Knicks fouled back to slow him. There's no full video, only a surviving radio call of the final minutes. Joe Rucklick is credited with the assist on point 100. All of this, plus gaps in footage, has turned the feat into a living basketball myth rather than just another box score. MSG, Easter Miracle. The Knicks were trailing for most of the second half, down double digits at one point, and it looked like another home loss was incoming. But Carmelo Anthony had other plans. He tied it late in regulation with a clutch 3, then followed it up with the game winner in overtime, a step-back triple that gave New York a 1-point lead with just seconds left. That was it. No more scoring. Knicks won 100-99. Melo finished with 43 points, hitting over 50% of his shots. He also went 7 for 9 at the line. The Bulls actually grabbed 74 rebounds and still lost. They also coughed up 40 turnovers. Yes, 40 compared to just 18 by the Knicks. Derrick Rose dropped 29 for Chicago, but it wasn't enough. The game fell on Easter Sunday, and that timing helped give the win its nickname. It was loud, chaotic, emotional, the kind of game fans hold on to. That final 3 from Melo isn't just a shot. It's become a chapter in modern Knicks legend. Holiday timing, a comeback win, a rival opponent, and a buzzer crowd roar? Yeah, lore sealed. Christmas Day comeback. Cleveland was down 14 in the fourth, and the Warriors looked like they had it wrapped. But then Kyrie went wild, dropping 14 of Cleveland's last 25 points and capping it all off with a ridiculous fadeaway over Klay Thompson with 3.4 seconds left. That jumper gave the Cavs a 1-point lead, and it stuck. Golden State still had a shot, but Kevin Durant stumbled after some contact, and the final play fizzled out. The Cavs won 109-108. Durant dropped 36 and grabbed 15 boards. LeBron answered with 31 and 13. Kyrie finished with 25 points, 10 assists, 6 boards, and 7 steals. This wasn't just another holiday game, it was a rematch of the previous finals. The crowd was electric, the stage was massive, and both teams knew what was at stake. Golden State led most of the second half, but Cleveland's late burst flipped everything. The drama, the star power, the last-second dagger, this one had it all. And the fact it happened on Christmas? Yeah, no wonder fans still call it one of the greatest holiday games ever. Westbrook's buzzer. The Nuggets were clinging to a 2-point lead with seconds left, desperate to keep their playoff hopes alive. But Russell Westbrook had already tied Oscar Robertson's triple-double record earlier that week, and now he was about to break it. With the clock winding down, he grabbed the inbounds pass, took 3 quick dribbles, and pulled up from 36 feet. The shot dropped at the buzzer. Game over. Thunder won 100. 6-105. Westbrook didn't just hit the dagger. He finished with 50 points, 16 rebounds, and 10 assists. That made it triple-double number 42 on the season, breaking a record many thought would never fall. Denver, they were eliminated from playoff contention on the spot. A 50-point triple-double capped with a game winner that ended another team's season. That's basketball theater. The shot wasn't even close to the line. It was way out there. The kind of range that makes people laugh in disbelief. That image. Westbrook rising, the crowd exploding. Nuggets players slump. It's cemented in league memory. It wasn't just a win. It was a record-breaking exclamation point fired from another zip code. Linsanity versus Lakers. With Melo and Stat out, Jeremy Lin took the floor at Madison Square Garden, carrying the Knicks offense, and then lit it on fire. He dropped 38 points and 7 assists on the Lakers, shooting 13 of 23 from the field and 10 of 13 from the line. Kobe Bryant scored 34, but Lin outshined him on both ends. The Knicks won 92-85, and Lin's performance wasn't just efficient, it was electric. Over half his team's points came from him, either by bucket or assist. This wasn't a fluke or a hot quarter. Lin ran the show all night. The Garden crowd erupted every time he touched the ball. For fans riding the Linsanity wave, this was the moment that turned belief into certainty. He was the underdog, the backup, the guy no one scouted. And suddenly, he was taking it to an all-time great in prime time. This wasn't a role player getting hot. It was a player taking over a game with full responsibility and zero excuses against a playoff caliber opponent on national TV. No wonder this night still echoes like it happened yesterday. Klay's 37-point quarter. On January 23, 2015, Klay Thompson erupted for 37 points in the third quarter against Sacramento. That's not a typo. He made 13 shots in a row. 9 of them were threes. He didn't miss once. The Warriors put up 41 points that quarter. Klay had 37 of them. At one point, he outscored the Kings, 18-3 by himself in just over 3 minutes. And once the crowd realized what was happening, everything shifted. Teammates started feeding him on purpose. It wasn't even subtle. Everyone on the court knew who the ball was going to, and it didn't matter. Catch and shoot, pull-ups, deep bombs. He hit them all. He finished with 52 total. But it's that quarter that turned the game into legend. The previous record for a quarter was 33. Klay dropped 37 and broke the record for most threes in a quarter too. And still, it's the fact he didn't miss a single shot that sticks. That's the kind of zone you don't practice for. You just catch fire and stay there. It's the benchmark every hot streak gets compared to now. Rose is 50. On Halloween night in 2018, Derrick Rose dropped 50 points against the Jazz in a 128-125 Timberwolves win. It was the only 50-point game of his career, and he did it shooting 19 of 31 from the field, 4 of 7 from deep, and 8 of 11 at the line. He also added 6 assists, 4 rebounds, a block, and a steal, playing 41 minutes in a tight 8 emotional battle. It wasn't just volume, he was surgical. Rose scored 15 in the fourth quarter and sealed the win with a block on the final defensive possession. This wasn't a feel-good sideshow. It was a high-stakes, end-to-end takeover by a player who'd been through years of injuries and doubts. Earlier that day, he told his teammates he was going for 50. Then he went out and did it. After the buzzer, he broke down. The crowd was chanting. His teammates mobbed him. The entire arena felt it. He didn't just prove something to the league, he proved it to himself. That game wasn't a comeback story. It was a confirmation. Derrick Rose never left. He just had to fight his way back. McGrady's 13-35. On December 9th, 2004, the Rockets were trailing by 8 with just over 30 seconds left. The Spurs looked set to close it out. Then Tracy McGrady went nuclear. He drilled a 3, then another. One of them was a 4-point play. Suddenly, the deficit was 1. The Spurs couldn't stop it. McGrady kept catching, rising, and launching. He hit 4 threes in total, including the game winner with about 2 seconds left. The Rockets won 81-80. The arena went from silence to chaos in half a minute. McGrady finished with 33 points, but those last 13 are the only ones anyone remembers. No timeouts, no setup. Just one player hijacking the entire end of a game. It wasn't just scoring, It was cold-blooded efficiency under maximum pressure. That kind of late-game swing doesn't happen in video games, let alone real life. There are comebacks, and then there's McGrady's 35 seconds of destruction. It's not just part of his legacy, it's one of the most replayed endings in NBA history. It's the moment every wild finish gets compared to now. Kobe versus Jamison. On December 6, 2000, Oracle Arena saw something wild. Both Kobe Bryant and Antawn Jamison dropped 51 points in the same game. Jamison's Warriors won it in overtime, 125-122. For Kobe, it was his first ever 50-point game. He went 18 of 35 from the field and nailed all 13 free throws. He added 7 rebounds and 8 assists, but also had 8 turnovers. Jamison, he was scorching, 21 of 29 shooting, plus 13 boards. Both players kept trading buckets all night. It wasn't just highlights, it was a duel with real stakes. The game went down to the wire and into overtime, and neither guy cooled off. Jamison was more efficient, Kobe more relentless. It's one of the rare times in league history where both stars scored 50 in the same game. That back and forth gave the whole night a heavyweight feel. Kobe was just 22, still rising. Jamison wasn't just keeping up, he outlasted him. Years later, they'd become teammates. But this night, it was war, and both walked off the floor, knowing exactly what the other was made of. King 60. On Christmas Day, 1984, Bernard King lit up Madison Square Garden with 60 points against the Nets. He went 19 of 30 from the field and 22 of 26 from the line. That's 63% shooting and a parade of free throws. He dropped 40 by halftime. The game was nationally televised, and even though the Knicks lost 120-114, King owned every second. No other player has scored more on Christmas. Not LeBron, not Kobe, not anyone. It's still the single game holiday record, and it wasn't an empty stat line. He attacked from everywhere, through contact, off movement, inside and mid-range. He carried a broken roster in a losing season on a marquee day and nearly pulled off the win himself. The loss only makes it more legendary. It was dominance, not luck. Every bucket looked earned, not handed. The NBA still replays this game every December. For Knicks fans, it's gospel. For scorers, it's a measuring stick. And for the league, it's the moment Christmas basketball became something bigger than just December games. King gave the Garden a gift. The league's still unwrapping it decades later. 14 threes. Klay Thompson lit up Chicago with a shooting clinic that's still untouched. He dropped 52 points in just 27 minutes, hitting 14 threes on 24 attempts. That's nearly 60% from deep. And he wasn't just bombing, he was straight up locked in. The most absurd part, he did it without a single assist. 0. He caught, fired, and destroyed. It was like the ball had a GPS for the net. This wasn't some random outburst either. He broke Steph Curry's old record of 13 threes, and he did it while sharing the court with him. That adds layers. The Splash Brothers weren't competing. They were leveling each other up. Klay tied the record for most threes in a half with 10, and his team set a record too. 17 threes in the first half alone. And this was on the road, in Chicago, not some comfy home stretch. The Warriors crushed the Bulls 149-124. People still bring this game up when debating all-time shooters, and for good reason. Even with the league obsessed with threes now, 14 still stands. Nobody's topped it. 20-20-20. Russell Westbrook tore through the Lakers with a box score so rare, only Wilt Chamberlain had done it before. He finished with 20 points, 20 rebounds, and 21 assists. A triple-double on turbo mode. The Thunder won that night, 119-103. But honestly, the final score felt like background noise. This wasn't some stat padding stunt. Westbrook dominated every part of the game. Guards don't usually pull down 20 rebounds, but Westbrook isn't wired like most guards. He was everywhere. It was a flex of pure effort, awareness, and control. And then there's the emotional layer. He dedicated the game to Nipsey Hussle, who'd passed just days earlier. After sealing the line, Westbrook shouted, "That's for Nipsey." It wasn't just about stats. It meant something. He became only the second player in history to pull off a 20-20-20 game. And since then, only Nikola Jokic has added his name to that club. This performance is one of those legacy markers, the kind that gets replayed whenever people ask how much one guy can do in one night. Westbrook answered that loud, Lefty Bird. This wasn't some random fluke where Larry Bird casually dropped a few lefty layups. On February 14th, 1986, against Portland, Bird didn't just play. He made a spectacle out of it. He reportedly told people before the game that he was going to shoot with his left hand just because he felt like it. And then he actually did it. Around 10 of his 21 made field goals came from that non-dominant hand. That's not showboating. That's wild. He still ended up with 47 points, 14 boards, and 11 assists. That's a triple-double on a night where he basically played a mini-game of can I still cook you with my offhand? And yeah, he switched hands during the game, but that's not the point. The point is, he pulled it off while barely using his dominant side. The trash talk behind it? Legendary. It wasn't about disrespect. It was about proving a point. He could outplay pros while giving himself a handicap. That game turned into one of those moments that people still talk about. Not because of stats, but because of how ridiculous the whole thing was. It added serious flair to his already ridiculous legacy. Bubble Suns. Game 8 wasn't just the last game, it was the climax. Phoenix took down the Clippers, 117-115 in the bubble, with Devin Booker bearing a turnaround jumper at the buzzer. That shot over Paul George with Kawhi Leonard lunging by wasn't a casual look. It was balance, patience, and shot making, all wrapped into one moment. He dropped 35 points on 13 of 25 shooting, and the Suns drilled 17 threes as a team. What makes this one stick is that it was the final stamp on a perfect run. 8-0. No fans, no noise, just basketball. The Clippers were real contenders, and Phoenix outlasted them. Fewer turnovers, smart ball movement. Even while getting edged out on the boards, they kept control. That last shot wasn't just pretty, it was pressure-proof. Booker pump faked Kawhi, spun, and let it go right over George's outstretched arm. Pure clock zero drama. The Suns didn't even make the playoffs, but this game made noise. It felt like a turning point. That shot gave Phoenix something real, belief. It became proof. The franchise went from invisible to impossible to ignore. All in 8 games. Luka's 73. On January 26, 2024, Luka didn't just light up the Hawks. He made history. 73 points, the highest scoring game in Mavericks history. He shot 25 of 33 from the field, hit 8 threes, and nailed 15 out of 16 free throws. That's 91% true shooting. Efficiency like that at this volume, it doesn't happen, ever. He had 41 in the first half alone, already breaking a franchise record before halftime. And it wasn't garbage time. Dallas needed every bucket. The final score was 148-143. Atlanta kept the pressure up, but Luka just kept answering. He also grabbed 10 rebounds, dished 7 assists, and even got a steal, because sure, why not? What sets this game apart isn't just the number, it's how clean he got there. Wilt and Kobe had volume. Luka had precision. He only took 33 shots to get 73 points. He became the 4th player ever to hit that mark, but the first to do it like this. Every possession looked like he was solving a puzzle and then setting it on fire. Skiles, 30 assists. On December 30th, 1990, Scott Skiles dropped 30 dimes in a single game. That's the most assists in NBA history. Nobody has touched that number since. The Magic crushed the Nuggets, 155-116. And Skiles didn't just pass, he orchestrated. He played 44 minutes, scored 22, grabbed 6 rebounds, and had just 4 turnovers. What made it unreal wasn't just the stat, it was how clean he did it. 30 assists, 4 turnovers. That ratio is ridiculous. And it's not like he was padding stats in some meaningless blowout. He had 14 assists by halftime, 10 more in the third, and 6 in the fourth. As the number climbed, the crowd and his teammates knew what was happening. The last few possessions had real anticipation. 6 Magic players scored in double figures. Skiles wasn't forcing anything. He was just unlocking the whole floor. The pace was wild, the Nuggets defense was cooked, and everything clicked. He broke the previous record of 29, and that game still defines his legacy. Over 30 years later, no one's come close. Not Stockton, not Magic. It's the assist equivalent of a 70-point game. Carter Williams' debut. Michael Carter Williams showed up on October 30th, 2013, and gave the defending champs a reality check. In his very first NBA game, he dropped 22 points, 12 assists, 7 boards, and 9 steals against the Miami Heat. Yeah, 9 steals. That's still the most ever by a rookie in a debut game. It started fast. He got a steal and dunked for his first bucket, dished his first assist seconds later, then nailed the 3. By halftime, he had 10 points, 7 assists, and 5 steals. Not bad for a guy playing his first NBA minutes against a team with LeBron James, Wade, and Chris Bosh. What made it wild was the balance. He wasn't just scoring, he was disrupting passing lanes, setting up teammates, crashing the glass, and hitting clutch free throws late. Those last 3 points in the final 30 seconds sealed the Sixers' win. The debut set the tone. He didn't look like a rookie, and the performance earned him Rookie of the Year. Since then, every hot debut gets measured against that night. The man did everything and made sure nobody forgot his name. Love's 31 and 31. On November 12th, 2010, Kevin Love didn't just have a great game, he made NBA history. 31 points, 31 rebounds, the first 30 and 30 performance the league had seen in nearly 3 decades. The Timberwolves beat the Knicks 112-103, and Love broke the franchise record for rebounds in a single game. At halftime, he only had 6 points and 9 boards. Then the switch flipped. He pulled down 15 rebounds in the third quarter alone and told Michael Beasley mid-game, "I'm going for 30. He meant rebounds, not points. Spoiler, he got both. That second half takeover turned a decent night into a legendary one. The last guy to do this before Love, Moses Malone. That's the tier he hit with that performance. Love's game wasn't some padding session. It came in a win, with dominance on both ends. 31 boards is his career high, and the story's wild because it didn't look historic until it suddenly was. Jennings, 55. On November 14th, 2009, Brandon Jennings dropped 55 points on the Warriors, just his 7th NBA game. He was 20 years old and didn't score a single point in the first quarter. Then the floodgates opened. By the end of the third, he'd hit 21 shots on 34 attempts, including 7 of 8 from deep. And no, he didn't play the fourth. He did all that damage in 3 quarters. His performance broke the Bucks' rookie scoring record, previously held by Kareem. Imagine doing that before your 21st birthday. He added 5 rebounds and 5 assists, just to keep things balanced. Milwaukee needed every bit of it too. They beat Golden State 129-125. The craziest part? Nobody saw it coming. He wasn't the number 1 pick, and this game flipped his whole narrative overnight. It wasn't just the points. It was the pace, the shot selection, the rhythm. He got hot and never cooled off. Since then, Jennings' name always pops up in rookie scoring lists. The youngest ever to hit 55. No fluke, just 3 quarters of unfiltered offense. Boogie, unejected. On December 20th, 2016, DeMarcus Cousins dropped 55 on the Blazers. But what made the night legendary wasn't just the scoring. It was the chaos. Late in the game, Cousins got hit with a second technical foul after his mouthpiece flew toward the Portland bench. That should have meant ejection. And it did, briefly. He sprinted off to the locker room. Then everything flipped. The refs huddled. After talking it out, they decided the mouthpiece toss wasn't intentional, just a reaction, not a launch, so they took the tech back. That's right, rescinded it. They called him back from the tunnel, and Boogie was back in. He even shot the free throw tied to the tech that never was. This isn't something you see. Ejections are usually permanent, but this one, they unejected him. That word barely even exists. Boogie called it ridiculous postgame, and fans have argued ever since. Some say he launched it, some say it slipped. The footage doesn't settle it either. Legendary Luka. On December 27, 2022, Luka put together a stat line that doesn't sound real. 60 points, 21 rebounds, 10 assists, add 2 steals, 1 block, and 47 minutes on the floor. Oh, and it came with a comeback that looked impossible. The Mavericks were down 9 with under 35 seconds left. Game over, right? Luka didn't agree. After a late scramble, he intentionally missed a free throw, grabbed the rebound, and somehow tipped in the shot to tie it with the 1 second left. Overtime followed. Dallas finished it off, winning 126-121. The numbers alone would have made it historic. No one had ever posted a 60, 20, 10 triple-double before, ever. He tied the highest scoring triple-double in league history and broke the Mavericks franchise scoring record in the process. But it wasn't just a stat fest. It was heart, timing, and complete control. People still argue about Luka's all-time rank, but this game is untouchable. The Knicks had no answer, and even the comeback looked scripted. It's not just a Luka highlight. It's a landmark NBA moment, a real-time myth being written as it happened. Warriors 24 no more. On December 12th, 2015, the Milwaukee Bucks snapped Golden State's record, 24-0 start. The Warriors had steamrolled everyone up to that point, but Milwaukee wasn't interested in being part of the win column. They took it 108-95 and made sure everyone knew it wasn't luck. Greg Monroe led the way with 28 points, 11 boards, and 5 assists. Michael Carter-Williams came off the bench with 17, and Giannis quietly dropped a triple-double with 11, 12, and 10. The Warriors, cold from deep, 6 of 26. Klay was off. Steph still scored 28, but Milwaukee's defense jammed their rhythm all night. The Bucks were 10 and 15 entering the game. Not contenders, but they hit Golden State with pressure, timely buckets, and a refusal to blink. The Warriors had played 7 straight on the road, and fatigue was real. But this wasn't a fluke. Milwaukee closed hard, with Monroe sealing it with an and one, and Carter-Williams capping it off with a late dunk. This wasn't just a win. It was a reminder that even historic teams bleed. The streak was over, and the league finally exhaled. Jordan's 69. On March 28, 1990, Michael Jordan went into Cleveland and delivered the most ridiculous stat line of his career. 69 points, 18 rebounds, 6 assists, 4 steals, and a block. He played 50 minutes, shot 23 of 37, and hit 21 of 23 free throws. That's not volume for the sake of it. That's surgical destruction. The Bulls beat the Cavaliers 117 to 113 in overtime. Jordan scored 16 in the first, 15 in the second, 20 in the third, 10 in the fourth, and 8 more in overtime. It was balanced, relentless, and efficient. This wasn't a blowout. Cleveland kept it close, but Jordan just kept taking over. He said afterward that he was fueled by anger, fired up by a crowd that cheered when he got hit hard earlier that season. So he gave them a show they wouldn't forget. It wasn't just points. It was a takeover, a complete performance on the road against a tough team in extended minutes. That night still stands as his career high. When people bring up epic scoring games, Jordan's 69 is always in the conversation, and it should be. Kobe outscored Dallas. On December 20th, 2005, Kobe Bryant outscored the entire Mavericks team through 3 quarters. He had 62. Dallas had 61. He sat out the fourth. Game over. This wasn't against some lottery team. The Mavericks were a 60-win squad that made the finals that same season. Didn't matter. Kobe shot 18 of 31, hit 22 of 25 free throws, and made 4 threes. He didn't chuck. He hunted. Mid-range, drives, contact. It was methodical violence. Nobody else on the Lakers scored 10, just him. He torched every defender they threw at him. No trap work. No switch slowed him. By the end of the third, Staples Center was losing its mind. Lakers staff even asked if he wanted to check back in for the fourth. Kobe declined, said he'd have another night like that. He did, later that season with 81. But this was the warning shot. It's the only known case where a player outscored an entire team through 3. That's not just domination, that's math breaking. And it happened in just 33 minutes. Efficient, ruthless, iconic. Mitchell, 71. On January 2nd, 2023, Donovan Mitchell detonated for 71 points, 8 rebounds, and 11 assists in an overtime win against the Bulls. He shot 22 of 34, nailed 7 threes, and knocked down 20 free throws. The Cavaliers won 145 to 134, but only after rallying from a 21-point deficit. At halftime, Mitchell had just 16 points. Then he unloaded, 24 in the third, a relentless push in the fourth, and 13 more in overtime. He even forced OT by intentionally missing a free throw, grabbing his own rebound, and tying the game with a putback. It was pure chaos and control at once. He became the first player ever to score 70 or more and drop 10 the same game, and he did it efficiently. Nearly 79% true shooting. He created or scored 99 total points. That's franchise record stuff in historic league territory. Only 7 players in NBA history have hit 70. Mitchell's the newest name, and he didn't just get buckets. He orchestrated a comeback. That game wasn't just about scoring. It was about refusing to lose and doing it with style. Nikola Jokic. His job title might say center, but the way he plays laughs at that label. He's not camping in the low post waiting for dump-offs or posting up every trip down. Jokic is running the show. Literally, he brings the ball up the floor, reads the defense like a seasoned guard, and gets everyone else moving. Offenses don't just run through him, they start with him. That's not how centers usually work. He's not just floating at the elbow for handoffs either. He's scanning the whole floor, delivering insane passes from spots where centers usually aren't even allowed to dribble. Skip passes, no-look lasers, bounce dimes. He's doing it all while 7 feet tall and built like a refrigerator with footwork. Guards cut for him, wings screen for him, and the offense bends to his decisions. And it's not a fluke. The entire system is built around his vision. He manipulates spacing from the top of the arc, drawing defenders way out and forcing them into mismatch they didn't sign up for. The Nuggets aren't just adjusting to his skills, they're depending on them. He's the brain of the machine, not the muscle. He's never fit the old center mold. He doesn't just finish plays, he starts them. He's not the end point. He's the engine. Josh Hart. He's listed as a guard or forward, but on the floor, that label barely holds up. At around 6'4", he's way shorter than most forwards. Yet the way he rebounds and defends looks more like someone 6'9". He's flying in for boards against big men and winning, not because of raw size, but because of timing, hustle, and instincts. Guards usually leak out on the break. Hart is still battling under the rim. He's not a traditional shooting guard either. He's constantly initiating fast breaks, pushing the tempo, and resetting the offense when things stall. That's usually the job of a point guard or a big forward, not a guard who's supposed to be catching and shooting. When he's not doing that, he's screening, cutting, or running handoffs. Actions more tied to motion wings and hybrid forwards. On defense, he's guarding up, not just sticking with guards, but matching up against power forwards and bigger wings. He's asked to body up, hold position, contest post touches, and switch without getting cooked. Teams trust him to hold down those matchups, even without height. His minutes are wild too. He's logging more time on the floor than most players at his listed position because he does so much outside the guard-forward mold. From spacing and movement to playmaking and board control, he's a connector who smooths out the gaps between stars. Hart doesn't just bend the traditional role, he breaks it. His game fits better under a new label, a forward in a guard's frame, doing whatever the team needs. He's redefining what that position even means in today's game. Alperen Sengun, listed as a center, but playing like someone ripped a guard's job description and handed it to him. He's not just catching the ball down low and going up strong. He's initiating offense, reading defenses, and controlling tempo. That's not just rare for a big man, it flips the whole center role inside out. He's bringing the ball up, operating at the elbows, and setting up teammates from the top of the key. It's not just about passing, it's about orchestrating. When Houston runs their sets, they lean on him to make decisions. He's not waiting for the ball in the paint, he's touching it early, high on the floor, and then making something happen. He's not a safety valve. He's the guy teams depend on to get everything moving. His passing's not an extra, it's the system. He dribbles with purpose, not just to escape pressure. He uses it to draw defenders and create space, setting up shooters or cutters from spots normally reserved for point guards. He stretches the floor without chucking threes, forcing defenses to respect his reads from guard territory. Traditional centers are finishers. Sengun's a starter, not in the lineup sense, but in how each play begins. He's dictating spacing, finding the open man, and keeping everything flowing. That's a creator's job, not a paint-bound big. And defensively, he's not locked in a box either. His floor awareness impacts rotations, not just rim protection. The guy's just built to bend roles. Sengun's a center by height, sure, but functionally, he's in his own category. A true hybrid, dragging the old position labels into something new. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, LeBron James. His position might say forward, but he's been running offenses like a lead guard for 20 years. He brings the ball up, controls tempo, and makes decisions that shape every possession. That's not a wing finishing plays or spotting up in the corner. That's a primary initiator, a role usually reserved for point guards. And it's not a part-time gig. He's done this with every team he's been on. His role has never fit cleanly into the forward box. He leads in assists, not just for games, here and there, but across full seasons. That kind of usage is something guards usually own. He's reading defenses, creating actions, and delivering passes that put teammates in scoring position before they even call for the ball. He's not reacting, he's dictating. And the positionless trend in modern basketball, LeBron's been ahead of it for years. Whether he's lining up as a forward, playing center in small ball sets, or acting as the only true ball handler on the floor, the job stays the same. Get everyone involved and keep the offense flowing. In the half court, he doesn't stand and wait. He runs sets, calls out coverages, and makes the kind of decisions that define the team's identity. His assist numbers and touch rates put him right next to top-tier point guards, not just in volume, but in impact. LeBron fits the point forward mold perfectly, big enough to play the four, skilled enough to run the one. His listed role says forward, but his actual game says leader, playmaker, and floor general. That's not a traditional forward job, it's something else entirely. Victor Wembanyama. They list him as a center, but nothing about the way he plays fits either label cleanly. He's bringing the ball up like a wing, creating offense like a guard, and stretching the floor from deep. That's not a big just stepping out for the occasional jumper. He's actually initiating offense. At 7'4", that's not just rare. It's redefining how defenses have to play. He doesn't post up all game. Instead, he floats around the perimeter, launches threes, and creates space just by standing out there. Defenders have to respect his shot and his handle, so they're dragged out of the paint, breaking down standard coverages. If you guard him like a center, he's gone. Guard him like a wing, and now you've got a size mismatch. Pick your problem. And on defense, he's protecting the rim, sure, but he's also switching onto guards, moving in space, and contesting shots from every angle. He's not locked into one spot. He's everywhere. He's got the foot speed to stay with smaller players and the length to recover instantly. He's not doing what traditional bigs do. No setting up shop on the low block, no waiting to be fed. Instead, he's creating, moving, spacing, and defending all over the floor. That's not a center. That's a hybrid, a roaming offensive creator who just happens to block everything in sight. Wemby's not bending roles. He's breaking them apart and building something new. Guard, wing, center, none of those terms stick. He's in a category by himself. and the league has to keep up. Denny. The roster says forward, but the way he plays looks more like a guard, disguised in a bigger frame. He's handling the ball, reading defenses, and setting up teammates, not camping in the corner, waiting for kickouts. Like a traditional three, he's often initiating the offense himself, stepping into a playmaker role that most teams reserve for guards or lead facilitators. He grabs a rebound and pushes the break without blinking. There's no outlet pass to a point guard, he becomes the point guard. That kind of tempo control isn't just rare for forwards, it's not even expected. He's reading in real time, attacking space or slowing things down to set up half-court action. His role changes the way transition offense flows. And defensively, he's not sticking to wings or matching size. He's switching across the board, from shifty guards to bulky forward, and holding his ground. Teams rely on his ability to rotate, contest, and recover in space. That's not forward-only work. That's hybrid defense. He's also not a classic scorer. His offense doesn't come from isolation or static spot shooting. Instead, he creates through movement, passing, and pacing. Portland's even run lineups without a true point guard because Denny fills that role without the label. He's a connector, a creator, a defender, all wrapped in one. Coaches use him like a Swiss Army knife. He's not confined to one role or one zone. His listed position says forward, but his actions scream hybrid guard forward. Denny's job isn't to fit a mold. It's to bend structure and hold the team's shape at the same time. That's not traditional. That's evolved. Draymond Green. His position says power forward, but what he actually does looks nothing like that. He's running the offense like a point guard, bringing the ball up, initiating sets, calling actions, and making reads that start possessions, not just finish them. He's not waiting to get the ball on the block or setting up shop for post-ups. He's controlling the flow. When the Warriors are clicking, it's often because Draymond is steering the ship. He touches the ball early, scans the floor, and decides how plays unfold. Traditional power forwards don't get that kind of responsibility. They're usually screen setters, spot shooters, or secondary options. Draymond, he's the decision maker. Defensively, it's the same story. He's not locked into guarding, just force. He switches across all 5 positions, holds up in the paint, chases guards on the perimeter, and quarterbacks the whole defense. He's directing teammates, calling out coverages, and anticipating actions before they happen. That's not normal for any forward, let alone someone his size. He's also taken on the role of small ball center when needed, anchoring the defense while staying involved in the offense as a creator. That kind of versatility breaks every mold for what a power forward is supposed to be. And his offense isn't about scoring. He facilitates, finds, cutters, sets, screens with purpose, and hits teammates in rhythm. His playmaking is the engine, not the bonus. It's built into how the Warriors operate. Draymond isn't stuck in the paint. He's at the top, on the wing, in transition. Wherever the play needs him, he bends roles, covers gaps, and leads from both ends. Calling him a power forward barely scratches the surface of what he actually does. Kristaps Porzingis. They call him a center or a power forward, but those labels barely stick when you look at how he actually plays. On defense, he protects the rim like a true center. He's altering shots, cutting off drives, and forcing changes in shot selection just by being there. But he's not switching out on guards consistently or locking up in space. Teams keep him closer to the basket to maximize his size and minimize his lateral movement issues. Offensively, forget the old school big man blueprint. He's not backing guys down or bullying defenders under the rim. He's spotting up beyond the arc, hitting threes, and pulling bigs away from the paint. His offense stretches the floor. He's more likely to hit a jumper from the top of the key than post up on the block. That changes how teams have to defend the whole court. He also doesn't crash the offensive glass like a typical big. He stays out high to create spacing, often giving up second chance plays in exchange for clean floor balance. He's a classic pick and pop threat, not a rim rolling bruiser. Even though he's 7'2", he plays more like a stretch wing with shot blocking duties. His unique combo of length, rim protection, and perimeter scoring puts him in a category of his own. He's a unicorn, not just in nickname, but in actual function. Porzingis doesn't fit the mold for a center or forward. He defends like a rim protector, but scores like a shooter. It's a blend that breaks traditional roles, leaving defenses stuck, choosing between guarding him as a wing or respecting his presence like a true big. Either way, it's never simple. Giannis. He's listed as a power forward, but watching him play, that label barely applies. He's bringing the ball up, initiating offense, and dictating pace like a lead guard. That's not a traditional four. That's a creator. He's not just cutting off the ball or working from mid-range. He's the one starting actions and breaking down defenses with the dribble. And when he attacks, it's not just brute force. He reads help defenders, slips passes through tight windows, and forces rotations that open up the floor. His downhill game collapses entire schemes, and the playmaking that comes from it isn't just a bonus. It's part of the design. Defensively, he's covering everything. He can guard bigs at the rim, wings on the drive, and even switch onto guards without looking out of place. He plays like a free safety, roaming, helping, rotating, and protecting space wherever it's needed. That's not sticking to a matchup, that's managing the entire floor. He doesn't operate like classic big men. He rarely posts up in isolation. Instead, he's in motion, handling, screening, rolling, driving. When the Bucks go small, he even takes center duties, not to post up, but to exploit matchups in space. He's the center by height, not by role. Giannis isn't a forward in the old school sense. He's not a traditional five either. He's a system all by himself, initiating offense, guarding the full spectrum, and playing in transition like a wing. The label says power forward, but the role says hybrid guard, rim finisher, anchor, and chaos engine rolled into one. The position? Undefined. Bam. They list him as a center or power forward, but he plays like something else entirely. He's not just setting screens and posting up. He's actually running parts of the offense, making reads from the elbows, handing off, facilitating, and initiating sets like A, point forward. His passing game isn't a side note, it's part of the structure. When he grabs a rebound, he doesn't stop to find a guard, he becomes one. He pushes the ball himself, setting the pace in transition. That's not something you ask from a traditional big. That's backcourt behavior wrapped in a 6'9" frame with a 7'3" wingspan. On defense, he's a nightmare for opponents trying to hunt matchups. He can guard guards on switches, wings on the perimeter, and bigs in the post. That kind of versatility is rare, especially for a player listed at center. He's not just a rim protector. He's a mobile defender who fits into schemes where coverage changes possession by possession, drop, switch, hedge, and he does it all. He's not pounding the post or living off putbacks. His offensive value comes from his decision-making, not traditional post scoring. He creates advantages, draws defenders out, and opens space for others. That's not classic center work, that's connective offense. And while he has the frame to bang inside, his game is more about flexibility than force. Coaches lean on him as the glue, the guy who fills gaps, not the guy who sticks to one role. Calling him a center or forward doesn't explain what he really does. Bam, breaks that mold. He's a hybrid, big doing jobs across the floor that bigs were never supposed to handle. Jaren Jackson, he's listed as a power forward or center, but he doesn't rebound like either. That's not about effort, it's about structure. His job isn't to sit in the paint, boxing out and collecting boards. He's flying around the court, rotating, contesting, and switching. The Grizzlies use him as a shot deterrent, not a glass cleaner. He's the weak side anchor, the guy who rotates to protect the rim when guards get beat. That means he's often leaving his man or chasing down blocks instead of being in prime rebounding spots. When he's airborne or pulled toward the perimeter on a switch, someone else has to snag the board, and Memphis plans for that. For years, he's played next to traditional rebounding bigs like Steven Adams and now Zach Edey. Those guys camp in the paint, do the dirty work, and let Jackson roam. He's not expected to lead the team in rebounds. He's expected to erase shots and force bad decisions. Offensively, his game pulls him out too. He spaces the floor, sets high screens, and hangs out near the arc. That keeps him from crashing the glass like a classic big. He's not banging under the rim on every possession. He's often in motion, operating away from where rebounds come down. Even with his size and wingspan, he's not built like a bruiser. His frame is more agile than imposing, and his playstyle leans into mobility, not muscle. Jackson's rebounding numbers are lower than what people expect from a big, but that's not a flaw, it's a function. His role isn't to dominate the boards, it's to defend everywhere, block everything, and let others grab the rebounds he forces into existence. Julius Randle, officially labeled a power forward, sometimes a center, but his game doesn't live inside that positional fence. He's not just running to the block, posting up, or trailing for putbacks. He's handling the ball, initiating sets, and forcing help rotations like a lead creator. Defenders collapse on him, and that opens up shooters. Not a typical front court role. His offense stretches across the court. He's scoring from the arc, mid-post, and rim, and not in a stationary way. He'll face up, dribble through contact, use footwork to get space, or hit turnaround jumpers. That's not catch and finish. That's creation, more like a wing than a big. And when he grabs a board, he's not looking for a guard. he becomes one. He pushes transition, reads the floor, and makes early decisions. His rebounding value isn't just possession security, it's offensive initiation. Defensively, he doesn't stick to one role. He guards bigger players with his strength, but also gets pulled into switches on smaller, quicker wing. Some matchups expose his lateral quickness, but coaches still throw him into variable assignment. He's a movable piece, not a fixed post. Even his shooting profile separates him from traditional fours. He demands closeouts at the arc, operates from the mid-range, and drags big defenders into uncomfortable space. That's structural spacing, not floor filler. Randall's role blends bruising strength with creative responsibility. He plays like a combo of power forward, wing, and secondary playmaker, a functional mismatch that throws old positional labels off balance. He's not boxed into one job. He fills the gaps, starts the engine, and forces the defense to make hard choices. That's not traditional, that's hybrid. Bol. On paper, he's a 7'3" center or power forward, but what he actually does on the floor tells a completely different story. Offensively, he doesn't operate like a classic big. He's not posting up, ducking in, or setting hard screens to create rim pressure. Instead, Bol floats to the perimeter, handling the ball like a wing, pulling up from mid-range or launching threes. His skill set, fluid jumper, touch, and occasional coast-to-coast drives, reflects a perimeter-oriented stretch big, not an interior anchor. Defensively, the mismatch with the traditional big role becomes even clearer. Yes, his absurd wingspan allows him to alter shots, but his lack of strength and low base makes him easy to dislodge. He doesn't hold paint position well, and stronger, more physical bigs routinely move him off his spot. Teams don't use him as a primary rebounder or paint enforcer because his frame doesn't support those roles. Rebounding, that's the key divergence. Despite his height, Bol has never been a glass-cleaning presence. He doesn't box, out consistently, lacks natural rebounding instincts, and gets out-muscled in traffic. His body language and positioning often prioritize help, defense, or space coverage rather than battling for boards. Even his role in team rotations reflects this disconnect. Across multiple teams, coaches have struggled to define a role for him. He doesn't anchor a defense or offense the way a traditional center or forward does. He's more of a specialist, someone you bring in for length, spacing, or shot disruption, but not someone you build a front court around. So while his size says center, his function says something else entirely. Bol is a skilled big with perimeter leanings, not a physical enforcer. He's a modern experiment, long, fluid, skilled, but without the foundational traits that define the traditional big man role. Josh Giddey, listed as a guard, but that label barely scratches the surface of what he actually does. He's officially tagged as a point, or shooting guard. But once the game tips off, the role he fills is way more complex. He's 6'7" and built like a wing, yet he handles the ball, controls the pace, and creates offense like a primary floor general. It's not just about bringing the ball up. He reads the defense, manipulates space, and sets up teammates in motion. Most guards are expected to pour in points. Giddey, he's more about rhythm, flow, and keeping the offense humming. What makes it even more strange is how well he rebounds. Not like a guard sneaking in for freebies, he rebounds like a wing, snatching boards and turning them into fast breaks. His height lets him pass over defenders, and his matchups are all over the place. He'll initiate offense against smaller guards one trip, then use his size against wings the next. He's not the guy you stick in one spot and call it a day. Defensively, it's even more of a riddle. He gets cross-matched constantly, and teams don't always know who should pick him up. He's not wired like a classic shooting guard. He's not playing with that score-first mindset. He's a connector, a catalyst. That's why he's always flirting with triple-doubles. He just operates in a zone that ignores the positional boxes. If you're still trying to pin him down as a two-guard, good luck. Giddey's just not playing by those rules. Bruce Brown, listed as a guard forward, but that label does not do him any justice. He's bounced between all 5 positions depending on the lineup, and it shows in how teams actually use him. Coaches see him as a utility guy, someone they can plug into nearly any role without breaking the system. That's not typical. Most players fall into a clear category. Brown's category is just whatever the team needs. Offensively, he's not chained to one spot. One game he's bringing the ball up, the next he's setting hard screens or cutting to the rim. He can run pick and rolls, handle dribble handoffs, or just space the floor while someone else cooks. He's been used as a secondary creator with bench units and asked to operate in ways that have nothing to do with being a standard 2 or 3. His offense shifts constantly. Defensively, it gets even more unpredictable. He's strong, quick, and his wingspan makes him a nightmare for ball handlers and bigger wings. He guards multiple positions, switches all over the floor, and never seems out of place. That kind of versatility is rare. What makes it wild is how seamless the transition is between his roles. He's guarding fours on one possession, then initiating offense the next. No part of his game is glued to a specific archetype. Coaches don't give him traditional positional duties. They give him problems to solve, and he solves them. Brown's the definition of modern positionless basketball. He's not a guard who can do a little more. He's a hybrid who does a bit of everything. Karl Anthony Towns, officially a center and power forward, but he plays like something completely different. 7 feet tall and nearly 250 pounds, yet he operates more like a perimeter player than a paint-bound big. His three-point shooting alone breaks the mold. Most 7-footers aren't stepping out and hitting threes at the volume and efficiency he does. Defenders have to chase him all the way out to the arc, which is definitely not what traditional centers signed up for. Instead of parking under the rim, he'll face up, drive past slower defenders, and pop out for jumpers. That perimeter-first approach makes his offense more like a forward's. He doesn't just finish plays, he starts them. He initiates offense from the top of the key, runs pick and pop, and works out of the high post with legit passing reads. Even though he still grabs boards like a traditional big, his role isn't about muscling in the paint or dominating on the block. His scoring arsenal stretches from mid-range to the three-point line, and he often plays away from the basket by design. On defense, things get more complicated. He's not always the anchor. His matchups shift, depending on who's around him, and he's been moved between center and forward roles. Sometimes he's switching out, sometimes he's covering inside, but it's rarely that classic rim protector job. What makes him hard to define is that he blends roles. He's not just stretching the floor, he's reshaping what it means to be a big. Towns isn't locked into old school center duties. He's a hybrid, a modern stretch big, who bends traditional positions out of shape. Matisse Thybulle, officially listed as a shooting guard and small forward, but trying to stuff his game into either of those boxes doesn't work. He doesn't function like a traditional wing. He's not out there running offense or lighting it up with scoring bursts. His identity is built around defense, and not just solid defense, but relentless, disruptive defense that forces opponents to adjust. Most wings are expected to contribute at both ends. Thybulle is one of the few who flips that formula completely. His impact is nearly all on the defense. He's elite at getting into passing lanes, tracking scores through screens, and using his wingspan to generate chaos without gambling recklessly. He's more of a disruptor than a lockdown guy, and that makes his presence felt instantly. Offensively, his role is minimal. He doesn't handle the ball much, doesn't initiate plays, and rarely creates his own shot. When he scores, it's usually in transition or off a cut. Catch and shoot threes come here and there, but his volume and consistency don't match what teams typically want from a shooting guard or small forward. The usual wing archetype involves spacing, creation, and scoring. Thybulle does none of that reliably. He's not even really a 3-and-D player. The D is elite, but the 3, not so much. Teams don't use him like a typical guard or forward. They plug him in to pester top scorers, rack up deflections, and tilt possessions. That hyper-specialized role makes him unique. He's not a balanced contributor, he's a specialist. And that's exactly why he doesn't fit the traditional mold for his listed position. Precious, listed as a power forward, but nothing about the way he's used fits that traditional mold. He's about 6'8", so technically undersized for a big, but with a 7'2" wingspan and freaky athleticism, he plays way bigger than his height suggests. That length gives him the tools to protect the rim, rebound, and battle inside, even when matched up against taller players. He's not just stuck under the basket though. What makes him stand out is how often he switches onto guards, wings, and centers, and holds his own. Teams rely on him defensively in a way that's way more dynamic than a standard forward. He's constantly switching, rotating, and contesting shots across the floor. His impact doesn't come from sitting in the paint and swatting shots like a traditional center. It comes from versatility. Offensively, he doesn't sit in the post and back guys down. He moves, he cuts, screens, finishes on the move, and runs the floor like a wing. When he rebounds, he'll push the pace himself, turning stops into transition. That run and jump energy is way different from how most power forwards operate. He's used as a small ball center a lot, but not because he fits the classic blueprint. Coaches lean on him because of how well he adapts, defending bigger players, switching when needed, and keeping up with faster lineups. His offensive game is still developing, but his role isn't to dominate the block. It's to disrupt, fly around, and give teams lineup flexibility. Precious isn't locked into one spot. He's a modern hybrid big, used wherever the matchup calls for it, and rarely in a way that looks traditional. Brook Lopez, listed as a center, but what he actually does on the court looks nothing like a traditional big. Early in his career, he played like the old school low post bruisers, back to the basket, living in the paint, barely stepping beyond the elbow. That version of Lopez doesn't exist anymore. He's reinvented himself as a stretch five, one of the most dramatic stylistic shifts in the league. Now instead of posting up, he's spacing the floor, camping out, beyond the arc, and hitting threes like a shooting forward. Defenses can't afford to leave him alone on the perimeter, which forces bigs out of the paint and warps spacing in a way most centers never do. That alone pulls him out of the traditional box. Defensively, he's still anchored to the paint, but even that comes with a twist. He's one of the best rim protectors in drop coverage, using timing, positioning, and size to deny easy looks. But he doesn't switch well, and he's not quick laterally. That makes him great as a drop defender, but less versatile than many modern bigs who are expected to switch onto wings. The combination is rare. Perimeter shooter on offense, paint anchor on defense, but it's all structured around role, not traditional size-based expectations. He's not a classic rebound and punish big. He's a specialist in space and vertical deterrence. Lopez didn't just tweak his game, he flipped the whole archetype. That shift makes him a stretch five in every functional sense, not a traditional center. The way he plays changes spacing, defensive coverages, and the entire rhythm of a team's structure. Jared Vanderbilt, listed as a power forward, but that doesn't reflect how he's actually used. On defense, he plays like a switchable wing, guarding everything from point guards to bigs. He's constantly thrown into full court pressure, fights through screens like a guard, and takes on primary ball handlers. That's not what power forwards usually do. Most are help side defenders or post matchups, but Vanderbilt's a disruptor who thrives on chaos. He's often deployed to chase passing lanes, not just to grab rebounds. He forces turnovers and creates transition looks. His wingspan and quickness let him match up with a huge range of opponents, and teams use him to neutralize scores that would usually face wings or guards, not a listed four. Offensively, he's barely involved. He's not spacing the floor or creating his own shot. You'll rarely see him operate from the post, shoot from mid-range, or handle the ball in the half court. His offensive role is minimal by design. He sets screens, cuts when the lane's open, and finds the soft spots off movement. That's it. He's not used like a modern scoring four, not even like a glue guy with some offensive value. He's there for defense, energy, rebounding, and transition. When he grabs a board, he's just as likely to push the break himself. That grab-and-go ability gives him more value in transition than most traditional bigs. Vanderbilt's on-court job blends parts of wing, guard, and forward roles, but doesn't match any of them perfectly. He's a defensive weapon and transition piece, not a classic forward. And that mismatch between label and role is exactly what makes him stand out. Grant Williams, listed as a power forward, but almost everything about how he's actually used says otherwise. On offense, he's not banging in the post or putting pressure inside. Instead, he's parked on the perimeter, waiting for catch and shoot chances. He's used to stretch the floor, not dominate it. His value comes from spacing and opportunistic movement, not post-ups, not isolation plays, and definitely not offensive rebounding putbacks like a classic four would be doing. Defensively, he doesn't anchor the paint. He switches a lot. He's often thrown on wings, bigs, even guards, depending on the matchup. His strength helps him hold ground, but he's not there to body traditional bigs or be the defensive focal point under the rim. He's a plug-and-play defender, not a post enforcer. Rebounding? That's not his identity either. He'll crash when needed, but you're not counting on him to clean the glass like a true front court presence. That lack of rebounding volume is one of the clearest signals he doesn't fit the power forward archetype. He's almost always used in lineups that prioritize versatility. Coaches plug him into roles based on spacing and matchup needs, not because he checks every box for a prototypical four. He doesn't control the paint, doesn't draw double teams inside, and doesn't create offense through power or post skill. Instead, he fits modern positionless basketball. He spaces, defends flexibly, and works as a connector. That's not a power forward in the traditional sense. That's a role player with a unique toolbox that only makes sense in a system built around flexibility. So yeah, his jersey might say power forward, but his game says something totally different. LeBron James. Over the years, a few franchises stood in the way of his dominance, and they didn't just beat him once. The San Antonio Spurs crushed LeBron's Cleveland run in a 4-game sweep back in 2007. then smacked down the Miami Heat in 5 games during 2014. With a finals record of 5 wins and 11 losses against San Antonio, it was clear their elite passing, deep experience, and lockdown defense disrupted his rhythm every time. Then came the Golden State Warriors. They didn't just win, they kept doing it. In 2015, they won in 6. In 2017, they finished it in 5. And in 2018, a clean 4-game sweep. Golden State's insane spacing, 3-point shooting, and that little addition named Kevin Durant buried LeBron's chances repeatedly. He went 7-15 against them in finals game. Dallas had its moment too. In 2011, Dirk and company outshot and outsmarted LeBron's Heat in 6 games, relying on killer pick-and-roll sets and punishing off-ball movement. Even in the regular season, Denver quietly became a problem, handing him more losses than wins. Then Minnesota sent him home early in 2025, ending the Lakers' playoff hopes in round 1. Consistent depth, floor spacing, and coaching schemes have repeatedly cracked the LeBron code. Michael Jordan, the Detroit Pistons, gave him real problems. From 1988 to 1990, they knocked his Bulls out of the playoffs 3 straight years. The Jordan rules were brutal. Double teams, hard fouls, and smart rotations forced him into tough shots and constant fatigue. Isaiah Thomas led a rugged group that used physicality and deep rosters to drag every series into a fight. Jordan eventually broke through in 1991, but not before going 10-12 in playoff games against them. The Boston Celtics got to him early too. In 1986, Bird and McHale led a sweep, winning 3 straight. Jordan scored a ridiculous 63 in one game, but that wasn't enough. The Celtics played smarter, shared the ball better, and used veteran experience to keep Chicago off balance. The Bulls weren't ready, and Boston made sure they knew it. Even the Milwaukee Bucks handed Jordan issues. He went 4-4 against them in playoff games, one of the few teams with a balanced postseason record against him. Not a powerhouse, but not an easy out either. Cleveland had moments too. He still won 14 out of 20. But those games were tight and physical. The Knicks pushed him hard with size and intensity. Utah, in 2 straight finals, forced 6 games each time. Jordan's greatness was real, but so were the teams that exposed gaps before he closed them. Steph Curry, one of the greatest shooters in NBA history, but even he hasn't dodged defeat. The Cleveland Cavaliers, led by LeBron James, were the first to deliver a major blow. In 2016, after being up 3-1 in the finals, Golden State lost 3 straight and watched Cleveland snatched the championship. That loss remains one of the most painful collapses in league history. The Toronto Raptors followed in 2019. With Kevin Durant injured and Klay Thompson going down mid-series, the Warriors fell in 6 games. Toronto's physical defense, Kawhi Leonard's consistency, and their control of the pace proved too much. Curry averaged over 30 points, but the supporting cast couldn't keep up. The Los Angeles Lakers added to the list in 2021, knocking the Warriors out in the play-in game. Curry dropped 37, but the Lakers clamped down late and ended their postseason hopes. Then came 2023. The Lakers again stood in the way, this time eliminating Golden State in the second round. Curry struggled with double teams, and the Lakers' size created problems across the board. That series showed how much the Warriors rely on spacing and rhythm, and how quickly it can break under relentless pressure. Even all-time greats run into smarter game plans, mismatched rosters, and fatigue. For Curry, it's never about one bad night. It's about those rare times when great teams locked in, played disciplined defense, and didn't let him breathe. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Kevin Durant, the Miami Heat were first to strike in a major way. In 2012, Durant's Thunder lost the finals in 5 games. Miami's defense forced tough looks, and their big 3 overpowered Oklahoma City's younger core. It was Durant's first finals and a sharp learning curve. Then came the Memphis Grizzlies, physical, patient, and defensively relentless. They gave Durant all kinds of problems. Across playoff matchups, he went 9-10 against them, one of the only teams with a winning postseason record over him. Their ability to control tempo and keep games in the half court hurt his rhythm every time. Golden State delivered the most crushing loss before he joined them. In 2016, Durant's Thunder led the Warriors 3-1 in the Western Conference Final and still lost 4 straight defeats. Capped by Golden State's pace, shooting, and defensive switches, ended Oklahoma City's run and changed the league forever. Fast forward to Brooklyn in 2021. Durant played brilliantly, but Milwaukee's defense and depth won the 7-game series. Then in 2019, as a Warrior, He fell to the Raptors in the finals, a rare finals loss for him. Durant's playoff elimination game record? 6 wins and 10 losses. In those do-or-die moments, he's been more often out than in. Whether it was Miami's aggression, Memphis grit, or Golden State's system, the trend's clear. Durant's faced elite defensive teams that knew how to wear him down. Kobe Bryant. The San Antonio Spurs were the team that beat him more than any other. Their disciplined schemes and veteran depth made Kobe work for every shot, with Tim Duncan anchoring the paint and guys like Ginobili and Parker applying constant pressure. The Lakers were repeatedly outmaneuvered in key series. It's the only long-term matchup where Kobe finished with more losses than wins. Then in 2011, Dallas delivered a shock. The Mavericks swept the Lakers in 4 straight games in the second round. Dirk Nowitzki was on fire, but it was their ball movement and spacing that really shut things down. Kobe couldn't get into rhythm, and the Lakers had no answer. Phoenix? Huge problem in the mid-2000s. The Suns knocked out the Lakers in back-to-back first rounds in 2006 and 2007. Steve Nash ran the floor like a machine, and their quick tempo exposed LA's slower half-court tendencies. Kobe's scoring wasn't enough when his team couldn't match pace or rotation. The Pistons shut everything down in 2004. That finals loss wasn't even close. Detroit's defense, led by Ben Wallace and Tayshaun Prince, collapsed on Kobe and suffocated LA's offense. He had no breathing room. Then in 2008, Boston's defense overwhelmed him in the finals. Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and company rotated perfectly, walled off drives, and made every possession a grind. Kobe eventually got revenge, but that first Celtics series showed exactly how elite defenses could lock him down. Larry Bird. The Detroit Pistons were the biggest challenge he faced in the East. By 1988, the rivalry peaked when Detroit knocked Boston out in the Eastern Conference Finals, winning 4-2. That loss was more than just a series. It marked a real shift in power. The Pistons' tough defense, led by Isaiah Thomas and Dennis Rodman, wore Boston down. It was physical, calculated, and effective. Bird's Celtics had a 12-12 playoff record against the Pistons, completely even. That tells the story right there. These weren't blowouts or flukes. They were battles, and Detroit found ways to exploit Boston's aging core and limit offensive flow. Earlier exits hurt too. In 1982, Boston lost in the playoffs without reaching the finals. Then in 1983, they won only 2 games before getting bounced, clearly falling short of expectations. Those years didn't get as much attention as the finals runs, but they mattered. They showed that roster issues, fatigue, or matchup problems could knock out even elite teams early. And while he never lost a playoff series to Michael Jordan, that doesn't erase the fact that Bird's Celtics racked up 65 playoff losses across 12 postseason runs. Not every year ended in glory. When Bird's teams lost, it was usually because they ran into smart physical defenses or failed to adjust. Detroit just did both, and even in years without a clear rival, Boston's depth and durability weren't always enough to close out. Magic Johnson. The first major blow came in 1983. His Lakers were swept in the finals by the Philadelphia 76ers, 4-0. That series wasn't close. Julius Erving, Moses Malone, and Philly's defense completely stalled Showtime. The Lakers couldn't run. Magic couldn't create freely. Every possession felt like it was sinking in quicksand. Then came the Boston Celtics. In 1984, the finals went to 7 games, but Boston closed the door. Larry Bird, Dennis Johnson, and Kevin McHale disrupted LA's pace and made the Lakers grind. It was one of Magic's most competitive losses, but a loss all the same. Houston wasn't as flashy, but they were a problem. In 1981, the Rockets took out Magic's Lakers in the first round. In 1986, they did it, again in the conference finals. Hakeem and Ralph Sampson created matchup nightmare, bigs who could score and protect the rim. Bad news for Showtime. Then came the Pistons. In 1989, Detroit swept the Lakers in the finals. The bad boys threw bodies at Magic and shut down the fast break with pure physicality. There was no room to run. In 1990, the Phoenix Suns knocked out the Lakers in the second round. Then, in 1991, Michael Jordan's Bulls ended Magic's finals career with a 5-game series win. Jordan took over late, and Chicago's defense closed every window. Magic lost 9 finals games to Boston, Philadelphia, and Chicago. He won 5 titles, but those defeats, they were earned. Nikola Jokic, despite all the brilliance, his playoff record has clear patterns of defeat. In 2020, the Lakers beat the Nuggets 4-1. LeBron and Anthony Davis pushed Denver off the floor with size, transition scoring, and tight defense. That series exposed the limits of Denver's defense and Jokic's support cast. Then in 2021, Phoenix swept them, 4 straight losses. The Suns blitzed Denver with spacing, quick ball movement, and Chris Paul pick and rolls. Denver couldn't match up on the perimeter or protect the paint. Golden State did the same thing in 2022, another series loss, 4-1. Their switching and shooting punished every slow rotation. Jokic put up big numbers, but the rest of the team crumbled. In 2019, Portland beat Denver in 7. That series showed how elite guard play and shot making could tilt a tight matchup. Denver had home court, but couldn't close. By 2024, Minnesota knocked them out in 7. Big, athletic, and organized, Minnesota limited Jokic's touches and forced others to beat them. Then in 2025, Oklahoma City repeated the formula. 4-3 series win for the Thunder. Jokic had 40-point games, but it didn't matter. He's lost 6 playoff series, mostly to teams with elite defense, deep rotations, or both. Even when Jokic dominates, those losses underline the fact that MVP play doesn't guarantee series wins, especially when facing long, switch-heavy rosters that make everything harder. Tim Duncan. For all the winning, there were cracks in the wall. The Los Angeles Lakers were the one team that beat him more than he beat them. In playoff matchups, the Spurs had 16 wins and 18 losses. Kobe and Shaq created problems no Spurs scheme could patch. The Lakers' spacing and elite wing scoring forced San Antonio's slower rotations to collapse. In 2000, the Spurs were the defending champs until Duncan's knee gave out. He missed the playoffs, and Phoenix sent them packing in round 1. The Suns stole that series, handing San Antonio a rare first-round exit. Without Duncan, the whole system fell apart. Then came Memphis in 2011, an 8 seed. They stunned San Antonio in 6 games. The Grizzlies hadn't even won a playoff series before that, but they bullied the Spurs with defense and rebound and closed them out. Detroit didn't win a full series against Duncan, but they were always a grind. Big bodies inside, slow it down play, and enough defense to make every game uncomfortable. Duncan had to work for every bucket when they met. Those losses weren't flukes. They came from elite wings, dominant front courts, or just sheer attrition. Out of 48 playoff series, Duncan only lost 13. But the ones he did lose, they came when spacing collapsed, when injuries hit, or when someone else imposed their will harder than the Spurs could resist. Wilt Chamberlain. As unstoppable as he seemed, the Boston Celtics were his recurring brick wall. In 1964, Wilt reached the finals with the Warriors, only to lose 4 games to 1 to Boston. Then came 1968, a brutal collapse. His 76ers had a 3-1 lead over Boston and lost the next 3. Then in 1969, now with the Lakers, and alongside Jerry West and Elgin Baylor, he lost to Boston again. That finals went 7 games. The Celtics were underdogs. They still won. The Celtics beat Chamberlain's teams in nearly every big moment. In 8 playoff matchups against Bill Russell, Wilt won only once. Russell's defensive positioning and team structure constantly absorbed Wilt's scoring and erased his support. But it wasn't just Boston. In the early 60s, Wilt's Warriors were bounced early by teams like the St. Louis Hawks. These weren't title-contending losses, but they kept him from reaching the big stage. Even when he had super teams, like the Lakers in 1969, his team couldn't seal the deal. That loss, against an aging Celtics squad, still defines part of his legacy. In elimination games, Wilt's record was 12-11, slightly above even. For a player that dominant, those margins mattered. His playoff record, 88 wins, 72 losses, shows success. But the defeats, they came when the pressure was highest, often with titles on the line, and with Boston across the floor. Giannis, the Toronto Raptors, were the first real wall. In 2017, they beat the Bucks in 6. Then in 2019, they knocked Milwaukee out again. This time, in the Eastern Conference Finals, after the Bucks took a 2-0 lead, Kawhi Leonard slowed down Giannis with tight one-on-one defense, while Toronto's help defenders packed the paint and forced outside shots. The Raptors closed the series in 6. Then came Boston. In 2018, the Celtics beat Milwaukee in 7. Their switchable defense and deep scoring options forced Giannis into tough angles and made the Bucks' offense predictable. It wasn't the last time Boston would give Milwaukee problems. Miami? That was a different level of disruption. In 2020, the Heat eliminated the top-seeded Bucks in 5. Then, in 2023, they did it again, this time as an 8 seed. Jimmy Butler dominated late-game situations while Bam Adebayo contained the interior. Milwaukee had no answers in crunch time. In 2025, the Indiana Pacers delivered a first-round knockout. Tyrese Halliburton's game-winning layup in overtime ended the series. Damian Lillard's injury during the series left Giannis without offensive backup, and Milwaukee couldn't recover. He's now lost 8 of 16 playoff series. Most of those defeats came from teams with elite defense, smart help rotations, or clutch scorers who could close games. Giannis dominates most matchups. But when his team can't shoot, can't stay healthy, or can't match poise, even his stat lines aren't enough. Shaq, one of the most dominant forces ever, but even he racked up some painful defeats. The first major one, Houston crushed Orlando in the 1995 finals. Shaq held his own, but Hakeem took over and swept them 4-0. That loss stuck for years. Then came Indiana, early in his Magic days. Their gritty defense and sharp execution kept him in check, even when he was putting up huge stats. It didn't always lead to a series loss, but they were constant roadblocks. Later, the San Antonio Spurs proved to be a real thorn. Shaq's playoff battles with them ended dead even, 15-15. That means they beat him just as often, no matter how big his numbers were. In 2004, Detroit shut down the Lakers stars and took the finals, 4-1. That one stung. The Pistons relied on team play and defense, not superstars. Then the Suns cooked the Lakers in 2008. By then, Shaq was older, and the firepower just wasn't there. Miami's first-round exit in 2007 was another sweep, a reminder that time waits for no center. Across his career, Shaq got swept around 6 times, early and late. Strong team systems, elite defense, and aging legs caught up. Even legends aren't immune to tough exits. Kareem. Even with 20 seasons and 6 titles, the losses told their own story. The Philadelphia 76ers were a major thorn, piling up 9 playoff wins against him. Their physical defense and balanced rosters made them a problem from his Bucks days to his final runs with the Lakers. The New York Knicks gave him trouble too. 4 playoff wins came from smart schemes and strong interior play, especially in those early 70s Eastern battles. Then there were the Golden State Warriors, who notched 10 playoff wins. Even when Kareem's teams advanced, Golden State's tempo and spacing often disrupted his rhythm and forced tough possessions. Before joining them, the Lakers had already beaten Kareem's Bucks 6 times in the playoffs. They packed the paint and doubled him hard. And the Boston Celtics took down his Bucks in the 1974 finals. That series went 7 games, and Boston's depth and half-court execution made the difference. Then in the 80s, the Celtics and Sixers both beat Kareem-led Lakers squads in the finals. These teams succeeded with smart passing, front court depth, and constant pressure. The pattern stayed the same. Deep, balanced teams with size up front and playoff experience chipped away at Kareem's dominance. Some slowed him with double teams. Some ran the floor to exhaust him. Others just played smarter. No matter how legendary the numbers, those playoff defeats made sure Kareem's path to greatness was anything but easy. Bill Russell. The man won 11 titles, but there were still moments when even his Celtics came up short. The most glaring, 1958. The St. Louis Hawks beat Boston 4-2 in the finals. Bob Pettit lit them up, and that loss stands as the only time Russell lost in the championship round. That series was rare because almost every year, Boston walked away with the trophy. Then came 1967. The Celtics were knocked out before the finals by the Philadelphia 76ers, led by Wilt Chamberlain. That loss was a big deal. It was one of only 2 seasons where Russell didn't make the finals, and the only one during his prime, when a Chamberlain-led team actually got the better of Boston. Now, he still lost 25 total finals games. So even in years where the Celtics won the title, there were battles. Nobody swept through him, not once. That's what makes it even more impressive. Through 165 playoff games, his teams were never swept, ever. And sure, Wilt grabbed headlines with monster numbers, but there were playoff runs where his teams beat Russell. The difference was, Russell's squads usually had the defense, the chemistry, and the clutch execution. But in those rare moments, like against the Hawks or the 67 Sixers, even Bill Russell's Celtics got outmatched. Those defeats were few, but they showed his dominance wasn't untouchable. Dirk Nowitzki. For all the greatness, there were plenty of playoff defeats. The worst, 2007. Dallas had the best record, Dirk was MVP. And still, the 8th seed Warriors knocked them out in 6 games. That loss rewrote expectations. Then there were the Spurs. San Antonio eliminated Dirk's Mavericks more than once, starting back in 2001 and again in 2014. Tim Duncan and that disciplined defense gave Dirk fits, especially in the paint. Before his redemption, the 2006 finals ended in heartbreak. Miami took the title in 6, with D. Wade torching Dallas in crunch time. That series flipped momentum hard. It didn't stop there. Between 2003 and 2015, the Mavericks had a string of early exits. First rounds, second rounds, didn't matter. 1 year after the title, they got the swept. Some years, they just ran out of steam. Others, they collapsed under pressure. Quick guards, perimeter-heavy teams, and tight defensive matchups hurt Dirk's squad time after time. Golden State used pace to shred Dallas's slow rotations. The Spurs beat them with balance and experience. Even after strong regular seasons, the Mavs couldn't always deliver. Dirk lost 76 playoff games and dropped 14 series. One championship defined his legacy, but those defeats shaped the story. His playoff resume was filled with peaks, but just as many valleys. Oscar Robertson, for all the numbers, the playoff defeats stacked up early and often. His Royals teams just couldn't break through, especially when running into Boston. The Celtics knocked Cincinnati out multiple times in the 60s, including a 7-game series in 1963. Even with Oscar posting near triple doubles, Boston's depth, defense, and experience sealed those outcomes. Later, with Milwaukee, he finally got a title in 1971. But 3 years later came his most painful loss, the 1974 final. That series against the Celtics went 7 games, and Boston took it. Kareem was dominant, but the Celtics' clutch play and tough schemes wore Milwaukee down. A late shot clock violation from Oscar in Game 6 turned into one of the series' biggest turning points. Before that, in Cincinnati, his playoff exits were constant. First-round losses in 1961, 62, and other years showed how far his teams were from title contention. Oscar did his part, but the Royals lacked the pieces to match up with powerhouse teams. In total, he went 46-40 in playoff games. That's a lot of close calls and short runs. The theme was always the same: Boston standing in the way or his own team falling short. The stats stayed elite. The trophies didn't. Even one of the game's most complete guards couldn't carry flawed rosters past the league's best. Kawhi Leonard, 2 rings, 2 finals MVPs. And still, teams have figured him out in big moments. The Oklahoma City Thunder handed him 10 playoff losses, more than any team. Between their star duos and relentless offense, they pulled apart defenses and exposed Kawhi's teams in tight series. Then there's Dallas, 12 wins, but 10 losses. Luka Doncic and that high-octane offense kept pushing Kawhi's defenses into rotation nightmares. Even when Kawhi delivered offensively, Dallas found ways to win playoff games across multiple years. Golden State hit him with 5 playoff losses, including the 2017 sweep when Kawhi got hurt. That injury changed the whole tone of that series, and the Warriors took advantage. Miami also notched 5 wins against him, mostly during the LeBron-Wade era, using physical defense and late-game execution to close games. Houston and Utah chipped in with a few defeats too. Smaller sample, but their pace and spacing gave Kawhi's squads trouble. Injuries didn't help either. He missed major games in 2017 and 2023. That's 2 separate playoff exits with Kawhi sidelined. Add in at least 11 elimination games across his career, and it's clear Kawhi's been tested. He's elite, no doubt, but Oklahoma City, Dallas, and Golden State have beaten him multiple times, and Miami made their mark too. In the playoffs, even top-tier defenders like Kawhi can get picked apart by schemes, health setbacks, or just stars who show up. Karl Malone, he played 19 seasons, won 98 playoff games, and still never got a ring. The Chicago Bulls were the wall he could never climb. In 1997, Malone's Jazz lost 4 games to 2 in the final. A year later, same outcome, same opponent, same heartbreak. Michael Jordan and that Chicago dynasty stopped Malone twice at the doorstep, with that Game 6 steal and jumper in 1998 basically slamming it shut. But it wasn't just the Bulls. The Western Conference had its share of heartbreak too. In the early 90s, teams like the Suns and Blazers bounced Utah before the finals even felt like a possibility. And in the late 80s, the Jazz were knocked out in round 1 again and again. It wasn't always Malone's fault. He'd put up big numbers, but the roster around him just couldn't keep up with deeper contenders. Then came 2004. Malone joined the Lakers for one last push. Shaq, Kobe, Peyton, Malone, the super team on paper. But Detroit had the defense and chemistry, and the Lakers fell 4 games to 1 in the finals. That was his last shot. 3 finals trips, 11 losses, no title. Malone's playoff record ended at 19 wins and 19 series losses. His greatness was never in question, but time and again, legendary opponents, team gaps, and brutal timing shut the door on his championship hopes. Kevin Garnett, 21 seasons, 1 title, and a long list of playoff exits. The Lakers were the biggest recurring nightmare. They knocked out his Timberwolves in 2003 and again in 2004, with stars like Shaq and Kobe Bryant outmatching Minnesota's top-heavy roster. Then came the Spurs. San Antonio sent Garnett home in the first round more than once. Their system, spacing, and defense exposed the Wolves' lack of depth. Dallas joined the party too. In the early 2000s, the Mavericks swept Minnesota with perimeter-heavy attacks that stretched Garnett's defense out of the paint. Later, it was Miami, with Boston and then Brooklyn. Garnett's squads lost to LeBron-led Heat teams in back-to-back seasons. And again, with the Nets. Miami's defense and shot-making buried him late in his career. The Timberwolves lost 5 first-round series in 6 years. Garnett played great, but his team couldn't keep up. The result? 17 playoff wins and 30 losses with Minnesota. That's brutal. In total, Garnett played in 26 playoff series and lost 13. He finished with 70 playoff wins and 73 losses. No matter how intense or skilled, Garnett's teams were constantly beaten by squads with more stars, better coaching, or deeper benches. The numbers don't lie. He was legendary, but the defeats stacked up, one tough series after another. James Harden, 16 straight playoff runs, and still, the losses have piled up in ways that define his legacy. The Warriors were his biggest nightmare. Golden State knocked Harden's teams out with a 7-16 record, including that brutal 4-3 loss in 2015 and another in 2019. Switching defenses, elite spacing, and Harden's ISO-heavy style didn't mix well when the lights got bright. Then there's the Lakers. 7 wins, but 9 losses, most notably in 2020, when the Rockets got bounced 4-1. Miami has also been a problem. Harden's record there, 3-8. Their physical defense and half-court control always gave his rhythm fits. Add Portland to the list too. They beat his Rockets in a 4-2 series where Damian Lillard hit the dagger. The elimination games say even more. Harden's teams are 10-16 when the season's on the line. That includes the loss to Milwaukee with Brooklyn in 2021 and Boston in Game 7 with Philly. Most recently, another Game 7 exit against the Nuggets with the Clippers. Through 31 series, Harden has lost more than he's won. Just one finals appearance, with the Thunder in 2012, and never back since. His playoff defeats came from elite defenses, tight moments, and often his teams breaking down when it mattered most. The numbers aren't kind, and neither is the postseason. David Robinson, one of the greatest centers of all time, but the playoffs didn't always go his way. Before Tim Duncan arrived, Robinson's Spurs were bounced from the postseason again and again. The Phoenix Suns swept them 3-0 in 1992. That team ran the floor, spread the court, and made Robinson chase guards all series long. The Utah Jazz also had his number. In 1994, they took out San Antonio with Stockton and Malone running that relentless pick and roll. Then again in 1996, Utah won 4-2. Robinson's interior defense was elite, but the Jazz's spacing and execution constantly pulled him away from the rim. In 1995, it was the Rockets. Houston beat the Spurs 4-2 in the Western Conference Finals, and Hakeem outplayed Robinson in one of the most legendary big man battles ever. That one left a mark. Even earlier, Golden State stunned San Antonio in 1991, winning 3-1 in a huge first-round upset. And don't forget Portland in 1990. The Blazers took that series 4-3. Robinson played in 27 playoff series and lost 10 of them. That includes losses to nearly every top-tier Western team of the decade. His numbers stayed strong, but those early Spurs teams lacked the depth to survive long runs. Until Duncan arrived, the playoffs were a gauntlet. Robinson couldn't get through alone. Allen Iverson, one of the fiercest scorers the league's ever seen, but the playoff wall was always looming. His most iconic run? 2001. He dragged the Sixers to the finals, took Game 1 in LA, dropped 48, and stepped over Tyronn Lue. And then the Lakers won the next 4. Shaq, Kobe, and a loaded roster crushed that miracle ride. But that wasn't the first time. In 1999, Indiana swept Philly in the semifinal. Iverson's stats stayed up, but the Pacers' defense was too much. Then in 2002, Boston took out Philly in 5. Another year, another scoring title, and another early exit. Detroit didn't make it easier. In 2003, they beat Philly 4-2. 2 years later, same matchup, worse result, 4-1. That was peak Piston, swarming defense, unselfish ball, and no space for ISO-heavy attacks. After Philly, Iverson landed in Denver. In 2007, they lost 4-1 in round 1. In 2008, it got worse. The Lakers swept them. That was Iverson's final playoff series. He ended with 30 wins 41 losses, 14 playoff series. Only 6 went his way. He always showed up, averaging nearly 30 in the postseason. But he faced deeper teams, sharper systems, and better balance. His legacy's carved in toughness and scoring, but the defeats came loud, clear, and often. Steve Nash. Despite being one of the most gifted passers to ever step on a court, Nash's playoff path was filled with brick walls, usually wearing black and silver. The San Antonio Spurs wrecked his teams over and over again, beating him 25 times while only losing 12. Every time Nash looked close to breaking through, the Spurs' defense and execution dragged his Suns back down. Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili did not care how flashy the Suns looked. They just won. Then came the Sacramento Kings, who held the edge in playoff wins against Nash's squads, grabbing 11 to his 6. Their fluid offense and tempo often dismantled Phoenix's rhythm, especially in those gritty early 2000s matchups. Seattle didn't show up often, but in Nash's younger years, they still found time to hand him 3 losses out of 4. Gary Payton and Shawn Kemp weren't playing around. Even the Mavericks, a team Nash actually played for, handed him several postseason exits. That 6-6 playoff record with Dallas includes some painful eliminations. And the Lakers, they took 8 games off him, often led by the nightmare duo of Kobe Bryant and Shaq. Across 23 playoff series, Nash's teams lost 12. His brilliance was clear, but those playoff exits piled up. Chris Paul, one of the smartest floor generals ever, but his postseason track record, brutal. Across 15 playoff runs, Paul's teams have lost more series than they've won. 12 wins, 15 losses. The San Antonio Spurs were the first to spoil the party. Back in 2008, Paul and the Hornets went up 2-0 before dropping the next 4 out of 5. A theme was born. Fast forward to 2013. The Clippers stormed to a 2-0 lead against Memphis, only to lose in 6. The pattern just wouldn't die. 2015 might be the worst of it. The Clippers were up 3-1 on Houston, 3-1. Then came a collapse so complete, people still bring it up when talking about blown leads. It didn't stop there. In 2016, Portland got them after another 2-0 Clippers lead. Even when Paul finally made the finals in 2021, the Bucks took 4 straight after Phoenix started strong. 1 year later, Dallas did the exact same thing. Phoenix up 2-0, then face-planted in Game 7. By then, Paul had set an NBA record, the first player to lose 5 different playoff series after going up 2-0. In elimination games, he's 6-12. That's twice as many exits as wins. 1 finals trip, no rings, and way too many "what happened" moments. Gordon Hayward. Less than 6 minutes into Boston's season opener, Gordon went up for an alley-oop and everything changed. Mid-air, he collided with LeBron and came down horribly. His left leg twisted under him and his foot pointed in the wrong direction. Trainers rushed in, stabilized his leg in an air cast, and took him out on a stretcher. Right then, it was clear he wasn't coming back anytime soon. The injury was brutal. A dislocated left ankle and a fractured left tibia, both caused by the awkward landing and rotation. The dislocation involved the talus shifting out of place and the tibia clean break. They relocated the ankle right there on the court before surgery the next day. That operation aimed to realign the tibia and secure the ankle. He missed the entire season. Recovery took more than just physical rehab. He started with comfort foods, even donuts, but eventually focused on rebuilding strength, mobility, and his mindset. His rehab included everything from ankle mobility drills to grip exercises using a bucket of rice. Hayward returned almost 1 year later for the next season opener. 10 points, 5 rebounds, 25 minutes. That comeback took everything he had. Paul George. During a Team USA scrimmage in August of 2014, George went up chasing down a fast break and crashed into the base of the stanchion. His right leg bent unnaturally, and the whole arena knew it was serious. The game stopped, players looked stunned, and the building went completely silent. The damage? A compound fracture to both his tibia and fibula. That means the bone snapped and pierced through the skin, making it even riskier because of potential infection. He was rushed to the hospital and underwent emergency surgery that same night. Doctors inserted a titanium rod into the tibia and likely used screws to secure the structure. Despite how bad it looked, he was cleared to put weight on the leg by late September. He was shooting jumpers by October, back to full practice by February, and finally returned in April. He dropped 13 points in 15 minutes in his first game back. Over the final 6 games, he averaged nearly 9 points and close to 4 rebounds. Less than a year after one of the worst injuries you'll ever see, he was back, not just playing, but heading toward an all-star level again. Shaun Livingston. Back in February of 2007, Livingston drove hard to the basket after a missed layup. Mid-air, his body shifted off balance, and when he landed, his left leg collapsed inward. The way it bent, you almost had to look away. His lower leg whipped sideways, and his knee looked completely out of place. The damage was shocking. He dislocated his kneecap and tibiofibular joint, tore his ACL, PCL, and lateral meniscus, and severely sprained his MCL. Doctors were even checking to make sure he wouldn't lose the leg entirely. Blood flow issues could have led to amputation if it had gone worse. He couldn't have surgery until the swelling went down, which meant 2 weeks of waiting, and that caused major muscle loss. His thigh shrank drastically. Recovery was long, over 18 months, and just bending his knee in rehab brought pain that forced him to grit through it every single day. He returned in late 2008 and found new ways to play. He relied on vision, craft, and size. His breakout year came with Brooklyn, then Golden State signed him. From there, 3 championships. That injury didn't end him. It transformed him into a smarter, more resilient player. Nerlens Noel. In January of 2019, during a matchup between Oklahoma City and Minnesota, Noel jumped to contest a dunk from Andrew Wiggins. Mid-air, Wiggins' elbow hit Noel square in the face, and the impact sent him crashing backward. His head slammed against the court, and he didn't move. Trainers rushed in. They stabilized his head and neck right away and brought out the stretcher. The entire arena fell silent as he was taken to OU Medical Center for further evaluation. That night, doctors confirmed it was a concussion. No fractures, but still serious. He stayed overnight for observation and was released the next day, but there was no timeline for return. He had to pass through the league's concussion protocol, which isn't based on a calendar, it's based on symptoms. Wiggins said afterward that he never meant to hurt him and hoped he'd be okay. Teammates were clearly shaken. Terrence Ferguson asked for prayers, and Steven Adams called it a terrible play, but praised how fast the medical staff reacted. Concussions are tough. There's no cast, no crutches, just patience, rest, and hope the symptoms fade. Noel's injury reminded everyone how fast the game can turn dangerous, even without broken bones. Andrew Bogut. In April of 2010, Bogut was on a break and went up for a two-handed dunk. As he descended, Amari gave a slight push from behind, and Bogut lost his balance. He tried grabbing the rim, but the momentum took over. He crashed down, landing hard on his right arm. The result? Brutal. He dislocated his elbow, fractured multiple bones in his hand, including his index finger, and sprained his wrist. Teammates said the elbow was visibly out of place. Trainers rushed in, and he was helped off immediately. That injury ended his season. At the time, he was averaging over 15 points, 10 rebounds, and more than 2 blocks per game. That year, he even earned All-NBA third-team honor. Bogut missed about 7 months recovering. When he returned the next season, he led the league in blocks per game, but the damage had long-term effects. His shooting form never fully came back, and doctors warned it could take years to regain control and precision. He's called it career-changing. It happened just as his game was peaking, and it altered the trajectory of everything that followed. That fall didn't just stop a season, it changed the way he played forever. Derrick Rose. In April of 2012, with just over a minute left in Game 1 of the playoffs, Rose drove into the lane, planted on his left leg, and instantly crumpled. He'd been dominating the game. 23 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. But in one jump, everything changed. Trainers came out fast. He couldn't walk. An MRI confirmed the worst, a torn ACL in his left knee. His season ended right there. Surgery followed in May, and he was expected to be out for up to a year. The Bulls lost their leader, and the team's playoff hopes took a massive hit. Rose missed the entire next season. When he came back, he wasn't the same. His explosive speed and athleticism, the traits that made him the youngest MVP ever, were reduced. His shooting efficiency dropped, and so did his drives to the rim. Then came more setbacks, multiple meniscus injuries in both knees. What followed was a long, grinding journey, brief comebacks, emotional moments, and flashes of brilliance. That injury didn't just end a season, it redirected a career. Rose's story shifted from dominance to resilience, and that ACL tear in 2012 was the moment it all pivoted. Jeremy Lin. In October of 2017, during Brooklyn's season opener, Lin drove hard to the basket late in the fourth quarter. He went up for a layup, landed awkwardly, and immediately clutched his right knee. He looked down and said, "I'm done." The pain was obvious, and so was the emotion. The diagnosis? A ruptured patella tendon in his right knee. It's a rare and serious injury, especially for pro athletes. That tendon connects the kneecap to the shin and is essential for jumping, sprinting, and landing. When it tears completely, the leg loses its ability to extend. Lin had season-ending surgery and began rehab soon after. Reports early the next year said his recovery was going smoothly. He was rehabbing in Vancouver and already setting goals for his return. Despite the injury, Lynn said he didn't want to change his playing style. He just wanted to be smarter, more deliberate, but still aggressive. The Nets lost their starting guard just one game in, and Lynn lost an entire season to a freak landing. Patellar tendon ruptures don't just bench a player, they test their mental and physical limits. Lynn's fight back was just beginning. Kobe Bryant. On April 12th, 2013, during a tight game against Golden State, Kobe planted his left foot for a crossover, something he'd done a million times, but this time he felt a sharp pop. He thought someone kicked him from behind, but no one had touched him. He had torn his Achilles tendon. Despite the injury, Kobe stayed in the game long enough to sink 2 free throws. Then, he walked off the court on his own. The diagnosis was a full rupture of the Achilles, grade 3. Surgery came the very next day. Doctors gave a 6 to 9 month recovery window, but the road back was brutal. He returned the next season, only to suffer a tibial fracture after 6 games. He never fully got back to his elite form. Over the next 3 years, he played 66, 35, and 6 games before calling it a career in 2016. Achilles tears are notoriously hard to recover from, especially past age 30, but Kobe's grit stood out. That moment, hitting those free throws, walking off hurt, it defined his mindset. The injury changed everything, but it never changed who he was. That was peak Mamba, Rajon Rondo. In Game 3 of the 2011 Eastern Semis, Rondo chased down a loose ball and got tangled with Wade. The fall that followed was ugly. Rondo's left elbow bent the wrong way, dislocated, visibly twisted. He clutched it immediately, grimacing on the floor. Trainers rushed in, stabilized the joint, and helped him off. Most assumed he was done for the night, if not the series. But minutes later, he came back. And then, he actually played the entire fourth quarter. His left arm dangled at his side like dead weight. But somehow, he still scored 4 points, dished an assist, and grabbed a rebound. Imaging later confirmed a full elbow dislocation. Normally, that means sitting out for 3 to 6 weeks. Instead, Rondo was back out there within minutes. Doctors credited it to a massive adrenaline surge and extreme pain tolerance. But it was still incredibly risky. Swelling, nerve damage, and ligament trauma were all on the table. This wasn't just playing hurt, this was dragging an injured arm into a playoff game and still contributing. It was one of the wildest returns to action you'll ever see, and it came with serious long-term consequences. Steve Nash. In Game 1 of the 2007 Western Semis, Nash collided face-first with Tony Parker while defending late in the fourth quarter. The result? A nasty cut across the bridge of his nose that started bleeding instantly and kept bleeding for the rest of the game. Trainers kept running in to patch him up, but nothing stopped the blood for long. Bandages came off, new ones went on, and Nash just kept playing. He didn't flinch. In fact, at one point, he reportedly reset the nose himself, pushed it back into place right there on the court. It was later confirmed to be a minimally displaced fracture. But Nash downplayed the whole thing, joking that he just rearranged it. Despite blood literally leaking from his face, he stayed in the game and kept leading the offense. No theatrics, just relentless focus. That moment didn't just showcase pain tolerance, it became part of his identity. It was classic Nash, calm, composed, and fully locked in. While it didn't end his season or derail his career, it added to the legend. Sometimes, the most unforgettable injuries aren't the most severe, they're the ones that show what a player's really made of. Victor Oladipo. In January of 2019, during a game against Toronto, Oladipo sprinted back on defense to disrupt a pass. As he planted his right leg, it buckled awkwardly under him. He collapsed instantly, yelling in pain. His kneecap had shifted upward, a clear sign of a quadriceps tendon rupture. He was stretchered off the court, and the MRI confirmed it. The tendon connecting his thigh muscles to the top of his kneecap had torn completely. This injury is rare in younger athletes and is considered more debilitating than an ACL tear. Without the tendon, the leg can't extend, it just gives out. He underwent surgery shortly after, where the tendon was reattached to the patella using anchors. Rehab started with weeks of immobilization before moving into strength and mobility work. His season was done, and most of the next one too. Oladipo returned nearly a year later. That stretch of time brought a lot of emotional weight. Watching his team's playoff run from the sidelines changed his perspective. He said the injury deepened his love for the game and his appreciation for what it meant to compete. It wasn't just physical recovery, it was a mental reset too. Zach LaVine. On February 3rd, 2017, during a regular season game against Detroit, LaVine planted his left foot while cutting near the baseline. No dramatic contact, no big fall, just a sharp move, and the knee buckled under him. He didn't crash hard, but he left the court right after. Something was clearly wrong. An MRI confirmed what no athlete wants to hear. Torn ACL in the left knee. That ended his season immediately. Levine had been having a breakout year, averaging nearly 19 points per game. It was his third season, and his trajectory looked sky high until that single landing changed everything. The play itself was deceptively simple. A fast cut, airborne movement, a twist on the plant, and the ligament gave out. It's a textbook example of how non-contact ACL tears can strike without warning. No collisions, just the body moving faster than the joint can handle. Levine underwent surgery and began the long rehab. He stayed optimistic, calling it a minor setback, and in time, he proved it. He came back strong, worked his way back to full speed, and eventually reached all-star level, turning a brutal moment into a comeback story worth remembering. Yao Ming. In Game 4 of the 2009 Western Semis, Yao was seen limping heavily in the fourth quarter. His foot was visibly swelling, and though he tried to play through it, he hobbled off late in the game. Something was clearly wrong. After the game, imaging confirmed a hairline fracture in his left foot, specifically in the tarsal navicular bone. That's a key midfoot bone that takes a ton of pressure during movement. The injury ruled him out for the rest of the playoff. Unlike other fractures, it wasn't operated on immediately. Doctors hoped it would heal naturally over 8 to 12 weeks. But healing didn't go as planned. The fracture worsened, and in the offseason, Yao finally underwent surgery. It wasn't his first foot problem, and it wouldn't be the last. That fracture was a turning point. It led to more setback and was one of the biggest factors in his early retirement. The Rockets even received a roster exception for his absence, and Yao, he later admitted the foot issues drained his focus and slowed his game. That limp in 2009 was more than pain. It was the beginning of the end for one of the league's most unique stars, Anderson Varejão. On January 6, 2011, during a simple practice drill, Varejão planted his foot, touched the sideline, and his knee buckled. No contact, no wild movement, just a sudden misstep, and that was it. He tore the peroneus longus tendon in his right foot. That tendon is crucial for lateral stability and ankle control, especially in a player known for quick reactions and relentless energy. The diagnosis came fast, and the verdict was clear: season ending. Surgery was scheduled for February 12th, and rehab was expected to take around 3 to 4 months. Varejão had been averaging over 9 points and nearly 10 rebounds a game. He was the defensive anchor, the guy doing all the dirty work. Coach Byron Scott called him the best player on the team at the time. And with LeBron already gone, losing Varejão made things worse for a team already in a brutal slump. The injury wasn't flashy. There was no dramatic fall, but it showed just how fragile things can be, even for a player built on hustle and durability. One misstep, one plant gone wrong, and a team's core can be ripped away. That's how fast it can happen. Derrick Jones Jr. On August 14, 2020, in a seeding game against Indiana, Jones collided hard with a screen set by Goga Bitadze. He was trying to maneuver around it when his neck and shoulder took the full impact. Immediately after the hit, Jones collapsed, face down, and didn't get up. Medical staff rushed over. He stayed still for several minutes, covering the back of his head with one hand. Trainers fitted him with a neck brace and carefully strapped him to a stretcher. The entire court went silent. It was a frightening scene. He was taken off for evaluation. The scans, MRI, CT, and concussion tests confirmed a neck strain. Thankfully, there were no fractures and no signs of nerve damage. While on the court, he moved his arms and legs, even tapping his toes. An early relief sign for everyone watching. Jones said afterward that he was sore but could move freely. Head coach Eric Spoelstra noted he was already improving by that evening. It looked scary, but it wasn't catastrophic. This wasn't a contact play gone wrong. It was a reminder that even screens can be dangerous. And in a bubble, with no crowd, that silence hit different. Patrick McCaw. On March 31st, 2018, during a game in Sacramento, McCaw went up for a dunk and clipped Vince Carter's shoulder midair. The contact sent him spiraling off balance. He crashed hard on his lower back and didn't move. 10 minutes passed with him lying face down as silence took over the arena. Medical staff immediately stabilized his neck and spine, placed him on a stretcher, and wheeled him off. Teammates gathered in prayer. Coach Steve Kerr called it the scariest thing he'd ever seen on a basketball floor. Scans at UC Davis Medical Center ruled out fractures and spinal damage. The official diagnosis was a lumbar spine contusion, a deep bruise on the lower back. Though it wasn't a break, the pain was severe. He struggled to sleep, moved slowly, and stayed out for weeks. McCaw expressed thanks to fans and to Carter, saying he knew there was no bad intent. His recovery took time, and the emotional toll was real. That moment wasn't about stats or impact plays. It was about stillness, fear, and gratitude. And it reminded everyone how quickly a routine move can turn into a frightening fall. Andrew Bynum, January 13, 2008. Early in the third quarter against the Grizzlies, Bynum leapt for a rebound, but as he came down, he landed awkwardly on Lamar Odom's foot. His left knee twisted, and the pain hit instantly. It was later diagnosed as a partial dislocation of the left kneecap, along with a bone bruise. That means the patella slipped out of its groove momentarily, then popped back in, causing trauma to the surrounding cartilage and bone. The Lakers initially estimated about 8 weeks of recovery, but things dragged. He ended up missing 46 games, including the entire postseason. In May, Bynum underwent arthroscopic surgery to smooth out cartilage damage behind the kneecap. It was a cleanup operation, but one that marked the beginning of a longer trend for him. Repeated knee issues, inconsistent comebacks. His injury reshaped the Lakers' season. Within weeks, they traded for Pau Gasol, a move that ultimately helped lead the team to 3 straight NBA Finals appearances. But for Bynum, that kneecap moment was more than a setback. It was a turning point. Rudy Gay, February 15th, 2011. In a regular season game against Philadelphia, Gay took a hit to the left shoulder. It didn't look catastrophic in the moment, but beneath the surface, something had shifted. The diagnosis? A shoulder subluxation, a partial dislocation, where the ball of the shoulder joint slips out of alignment, then returns. It's not a full dislocation, but it's still serious, especially for a player who lives above the rim and relies on that shoulder to shoot, pass, and defend. Initially, the Grizzlies hoped rest and rehab would be enough, but by March 22nd, the team announced Gay would undergo season-ending surgery. The procedure was meant to stabilize the joint and prevent future dislocations. It was performed later that month, shutting down what had been a breakout year. At the time of the injury, Gay was averaging nearly 20 points per game, playing at an all-star level. His absence loomed large as the Grizzlies made a surprise playoff run without him, knocking off the top-seeded Spurs, but always missing their best wing scorer. This wasn't a headline-grabbing fall. There was no stretcher, no screaming, just a joint slipping slightly, but enough to derail a season. And in a league where rhythm is everything, that subluxation hit pause on Rudy Gay's momentum. Chris Paul. During the 2-2 series back in 2016, Chris Paul was guarding Gerald Henderson in the third quarter when he reached out with his right hand to swipe the ball. That twisty contact against Henderson's back caused a fracture in the third metacarpal of his shooting hand. Not ideal. Paul had already racked up 16 points and 4 assists in 25 minutes, but that was all he'd get. With just over 6 minutes left in the third, he left the game, clearly furious. He even kicked a seat cushion on his way to the locker room, which honestly said everything. The medical call was a fractured third metacarpal. Not some mild tweak, this was serious. Doctors expected surgery, and recovery would probably take anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks. Head coach Doc Rivers was blunt, saying it didn't look good for Paul. He was right. The Clippers didn't just lose their star point guard, they lost their shot. With Blake Griffin also hurt, the team collapsed and got bounced in 6 games. That hand fracture wasn't just an injury. It ripped the foundation out from under the Clippers' playoff run and left a bitter mark on the team's postseason history. Baron Davis. In Game 4 of the 2012 playoffs, Davis was sprinting during a fast break when his right knee suddenly gave out. He crumpled to the floor in visible pain, and for a few minutes, didn't move. The energy in Madison Square Garden completely shifted. Teammates looked rattled. Opponents were frozen. Trainers rushed out while the crowd watched in silence. After being stabilized, Davis waved as he was stretchered off, but the damage was already done. It wasn't just a bad fall. The MRI results showed a full disaster. His kneecap was dislocated, and he'd torn his anterior cruciate ligament, medial collateral ligament, and part of his patellar tendon. 1, 2, 3 major structures all gone in one moment. That's a year off the court minimum. At age 33, with a long injury history behind him, this wasn't just a setback. It felt like a final curtain call. His coach praised his leadership. The Knicks were already struggling, but losing Davis like that crushed morale. It was a moment that didn't just shake the roster. It marked the end of a career that deserved a better send-off. Kendrick Perkins. In Game 6 of the 2010 Finals, Perkins went up for a rebound and landed awkwardly after getting tangled between Andrew Bynum and Kobe Bryant. Right away, he grabbed at his right knee and stayed on the floor, clearly in pain. The Celtics bench and crowd fell silent. Early reports said it was a sprain, but that didn't last long. Scans confirmed he tore both the medial collateral ligament and the posterior cruciate ligament. Just like that, he was ruled out for Game 7. Roughly 4 weeks later, he had arthroscopic surgery to fix the damage. The surgeons also found they needed to reconstruct his anterior cruciate ligament. That made the expected recovery stretch out to about 6 months. Not only was he done for the finals, but he'd also miss a chunk of the next season. The Celtics tried to fill the gap with Glenn Davis and Rasheed Wallace, but losing Perkins' defense and rebounding threw off their rhythm. The Lakers pushed to a Game 7 and took the title. That one injury completely flipped the series. It didn't just hurt Boston's paint presence, it broke the spine of their momentum at the worst time possible. Kenyon Martin. In the season opener, Martin went up to block a shot from Latrell Sprewell and landed directly on Sprewell's foot. His left ankle twisted backward toward the basket, and the moment he hit the ground, you could tell it wasn't just a tweak. He slammed the court in frustration, not just from the pain, but from knowing something had gone wrong. Teammates Aaron Williams and Brian Scalabrine helped carry him off as medical staff rushed over. X-rays came back negative, which ruled out any fractures, but it was still a severe ankle sprain. The team called it day-to-day, but the reality was that it threw off his whole early season rhythm. He missed multiple games and had to rebuild momentum after what should have been a tone-setting opener. Martin wasn't just another starter, he was the team's emotional center. Losing him that early messed with the Nets' chemistry. Even though this wasn't a season-ending injury, it shook the locker room. It showed how even non-contact landings can cause real damage. When the guy known for fire and toughness goes down like that, it hits deeper than the stat sheet. It messes with your core. Julius Randle. On October 28, 2014, in his very first NBA game, Randle drove to the hoop with just under 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. But as he elevated, his left leg accidentally struck his right. That little bit of contact, it caused a full fracture of his right tibia. Just like that, his rookie debut was over. The injury looked minor at first glance, but he stayed down, clearly in pain. Trainers rushed in, and the crowd at Staples Center got real quiet. He was taken for evaluation immediately, and team doctors confirmed the tibia was broken. The next day, Randle had surgery to repair the fracture. His debut season? Gone. 1 game in. No comeback during the year. No learning curve. Just crutches, rehab, and a long wait. By March, he was cleared for non-contact work, and he finally returned for Summer League later in July. It was a brutal way to start a career. 1 game in, and the Lakers lost the top 10 pick for the whole year. It wasn't a highlight, it was a gut punch. That kind of injury rewrites a rookie season before it ever has a chance to begin. Sam Bowie, drafted 2nd overall in 1984. Portland took him over Michael Jordan, hoping to pair a dominant center with Clyde Drexler. But behind the scenes, Bowie was hiding leg pain he'd been feeling for years. He even admitted later that he lied during pre-draft exams, saying his leg didn't hurt when doctors tapped it. That lie followed him for the rest of his career. It started in college. A stress fracture in his left tibia led to a bone graft and cost him 2 full seasons. In Portland, the leg trouble only escalated. In his second NBA season, he broke the same leg during a rebound. Then in 1986, he fractured his right tibia while taking a simple jump shot. The bone nearly broke through the skin. Later setbacks led to a metal plate and 10 screws being inserted into his leg. He missed nearly 2 entire seasons and played just 63 games over 4 years with the team. He went through multiple surgeries and said rushing back was one of his biggest regrets. His story didn't end with banners or trophies. It became a hard lesson about fragile bodies, pressure, and the cost of hiding pain. Jason Tatum. On May 12, 2025, during Game 4 of the Eastern Semifinals, Tatum dove for a loose ball with under 2 minutes left. There was no contact, just a sudden collapse. He grabbed his right leg and stayed down. The look on his face said everything. Trainers rushed in and a wheelchair came out. The diagnosis came fast. A ruptured right Achilles tendon, confirmed by an MRI later that night. Surgery happened the next day, performed by Dr. Martin O'Malley at the Hospital for Special Surgery. The early procedure gave hope, but the team announced Tatum would miss the rest of the playoffs and likely most of the next season too. At 27, he had age on his side, but Achilles injuries are no joke. Recovery time sits somewhere around 9 to 12 months. By late July, reports showed progress. Tatum was out of the boot, walking again, and in the gym 6 days a week. Rehab was intense, but steady. The Celtics front office praised his discipline, staying positive about a return. Still, the timing couldn't have been worse. A non-contact fall at Madison Square Garden that flipped Boston's playoff run and cast a shadow on the next season. David Lee. On November 10th, 2010, in his first return to Madison Square Garden as a Warrior, Lee went up for a rebound and collided with Wilson Chandler. Chandler lost a tooth in the process, but that was just the start. A fragment of that tooth lodged itself deep inside Lee's left elbow, and yet somehow, Lee kept playing. He dropped 28 points and pulled in 10 rebounds, all while blood soaked through the wrap on his arm. After the game, things took a turn. Lee checked into the hospital with swelling and sharp pain. The elbow had ballooned to the size of a softball. Doctors found an infection caused by bacteria from the embedded tooth. It was serious enough that if antibiotics didn't work, part of his triceps might have needed to be removed. Lee needed 2 surgeries just to flush the wound properly. He said what started as a 2-day thing nearly ended his career, but somehow he returned in about 2.5 weeks and would eventually become an all-star in 2013. It was one of the weirdest injuries the league has seen. And a reminder that even teeth can threaten careers in this sport. Tyrese Halliburton, Game 7 of the 2025 NBA Finals, first quarter. The Pacers were keeping it close when Halliburton drove the lane and suddenly collapsed without contact. He grabbed his right leg, and it was clear something serious had happened. Already playing through a calf strain, the moment he hit the floor, medical staff knew it was worse. He was helped off and didn't return. That single moment cracked Indiana's momentum. Later that night, the team confirmed the worst: a torn right Achilles tendon. The MRI left no doubt. The Pacers lost 103-91, and Halliburton's early exit was a clear turning point. He'd already hit 3 deep shots before the injury. After he left, the Pacers got outscored badly. The next day, Pacers president Kevin Pritchard announced Halliburton would miss the entire 2025 to 2026 season. The tone around the league shifted instantly. Fans were stunned. His Instagram message focused on recovery and staying strong. But it couldn't erase the fact that this injury overshadowed the biggest game of his life. The Pacers' first trip to the finals ended in heartbreak. And now their future's on pause while their star healed, Jorge Garbajosa. On March 26, 2007, Garbajosa went up to contest a dunk by Al Jefferson. And when he landed, everything went wrong. His left leg took the full impact, twisting violently under his body. Right away, the look of it was alarming. His ankle was clearly displaced, and the lower leg had the kind of angulation that stops a game cold. Trainers didn't wait. He was stabilized and stretchered off, surrounded by stunned teammates and silence from the crowd. The diagnosis was brutal: a fractured fibula, a dislocated ankle, and serious ligament damage. It wasn't called a compound fracture publicly, but the displacement and visible deformity lined up with that kind of trauma. Surgery came quickly, and doctors initially projected about 6 months out, but the comeback wasn't clean. His return led to complications. Scans later found necrosis and a fissure in the tibia. That meant another surgery and more time on the shelf. Garbajosa had just been named to the all-rookie first team, but his NBA rise ended before it truly started. Minutes disappeared. His role shrank. Eventually, he returned to Europe, leaving behind a career that felt like it ended the second that foot hit the floor. Damian Lillard. In Game 4 of the 2025 first round, Lillard chased down a rebound early in the first quarter. No contact, no collision, just one push off the left leg, and then he dropped. Right away, you could tell it was serious. He stayed down near the arc, clutching his left lower leg. Trainers rushed in. Moments later, he was helped off, unable to put any weight on it. He left the arena in a boot, on crutches, and out of the playoffs. An MRI confirmed what everyone feared: a torn left Achilles tendon. Surgery followed on May 2nd, performed by Dr. Neil Alatrici with Dr. Carol Vetter assisting. That kicked off a 9 to 12 month recovery window. By midsummer, he was out of the boot, walking, and back in rehab, but there's still no set return date. Milwaukee's season fell apart after his exit. They lost the series, and Lillard was waived during the offseason. He later rejoined Portland, bringing his career full circle. But the injury didn't just end a playoff run, it shook a franchise and left one of the game's top guards facing a long road back from one of basketball's hardest setbacks. Rodney Hood, December 6th, 2019. Just 9 minutes into a home game against the Lakers, Hood grabbed a rebound, pivoted up court, and collapsed with no contact. The left leg gave out. He clutched at his Achilles and stayed down, his face already telling the story. It was over. He couldn't stand, couldn't walk. Teammates watched in disbelief as he was helped off the court, limping, his season ending before the first quarter had even finished. The MRI confirmed what everyone feared: a torn left Achilles tendon. Surgery followed almost immediately. Head coach Terry Stotts said what no player wants to hear: it was season-ending. Hood had been in the middle of his best stretch, averaging over 11 points and hitting nearly 50% from deep. Then in one quiet moment, everything stopped. He later admitted that the moment felt like a career threat. The emotional toll hit hard. Most players used to retire after Achilles tears, but Hood turned to guys like Wesley Matthews and Kevin Durant for hope. By the end of 2020, he was rehabbing hard, eyeing a return. It was a harsh reminder that even a breakout year can vanish in a single step. Level 1, surface talk. Frozen envelope. The theory goes like this. Back in 1985, the NBA needed a boost. It was the first time they were using a draft lottery, and Patrick Ewing was the prize, a star out of Georgetown, expected to transform any franchise. And of all the possible outcomes, the New York Knicks just happened to get the first pick. That's where things get interesting. The theory claims that one of the envelopes in the clear drum was either frozen or bent, something to make it stand out. That way, when Commissioner David Stern reached in, he'd know exactly which one to grab. And of course, he pulled out the envelope with the Knicks logo. Some say the envelope was chilled beforehand, so it'd feel different. Others believe it was slammed into the side of the drum to crease the corner, a visual or tactile clue. The drum was see-through, which adds even more fuel to the theory. You could have spotted a bent corner or a subtle mark. And if you're a commissioner with a rooting interest, well, let's just say it wouldn't hurt. The NBA's motive? Pretty straightforward. New York was the biggest market. Putting a generational player like Ewing in that city would have boosted ratings, brought in more revenue, and helped the league grow. It was a business decision wrapped in a basketball moment. Even the accounting firm involved supposedly had ties to the Knicks ownership. And Stern, lifelong Knicks fan. Every piece just fit a little too neatly. The moment the envelope was opened and the Knicks won the pick, it wasn't just luck to some people. It was orchestration. The frozen envelope theory still hangs around like cold air from a cracked freezer door. Rigged Western Final. The theory says the 2002 Western Conference Finals between the Kings and Lakers wasn't just competitive, it was orchestrated. Sacramento had the best record that season and was rolling. But the Lakers, the defending champs, were the league's money team. The spotlight loved them. And according to the theory, so did the refs. Game 6 is the epicenter. The Lakers shot 40 free throws, with 27 of those in the fourth quarter alone. That stat gets repeated over and over. Meanwhile, Sacramento's bigs couldn't stay on the floor. Divac, Weber, Pollard, and Funderburk all racked up fouls. Some even fouled out. The game tilted, and fans noticed. Commentators like Michael Wilbon called out the calls, all against the King, all in crunch time. Then there's former ref Tim Donaghy. His lawyer submitted a letter saying 2 refs extended the series on purpose. Why? Because pushing it to Game 7 kept the drama alive, which helped the league. The officials were described as loyal to the NBA's interest, and the league wanted the Lakers on the biggest stage. The Kings had the momentum. They were at home, but late calls disrupted everything. The Lakers closed strong, took Game 6, and forced Game 7, which they won in overtime. The theory says this outcome wasn't chance, it was business. It leans on market size. The Lakers were a draw. The Kings, not so much. The NBA's ratings and reach were on the line, and Los Angeles made sense as the finals pick. The refs in Game 6, including Dick Bavetta, had long tenures, and their involvement added more heat to the fire. The Lakers moved on. The Kings didn't. The theory never cooled off. 2009, draft lottery. The theory claims the 2008 draft lottery was rigged so the Bulls could land the #1 pick and grab Derrick Rose, a hometown phenom with star power. Chicago had just a 1.7% shot, yet somehow they won it. That insanely low chance is what drives the theory. Out of all the teams, the Bulls had barely any statistical hope, but the result? A top-tier talent, born and raised in Chicago, suddenly landing with the struggling Bulls. It was almost too perfect. The narrative writes itself. A Chicago native becomes the face of the Bulls just when they needed a reboot after the post-Jordan slump. From a league perspective, it gave them a big market franchise, gaining new life with a fan favorite. The theory says that's exactly the type of outcome the league would want to guide. In Rose's case, the theory holds that the league put a future MVP in a major city for maximum impact. At the time, Chicago needed a star, and Rose fit that role flawlessly. His high school roots, his local buzz, it all fed into the belief that this was more than just ping pong balls bouncing around. The league got its storyline. Chicago got its hero. The odds were tiny, but the outcome was massive. And to this day, plenty of fans believe that ball never bounced on its own. 2006 Finals rigged. The theory says the 2006 NBA Finals weren't just dramatic, they were fixed. Dallas had the better record, won the first 2 games, and looked like the favorite. Then, out of nowhere, Miami rattled off 4 straight wins. That's where things get suspicious. Game 5 is the flashpoint. Miami shot 49 free throws. Dallas, just 25. Wade alone made 21 free throws. A finals record. That's nearly as many as the entire Mavericks roster. Game 6, Miami had 37 attempts. Dallas had 23. The foul disparity stuck out like a sore thumb. And the theory says it was the main tool used to swing the outcome. Then there were the questionable calls. In Game 5's overtime, Wade caught an inbounds pass while moving into the backcourt. Mavericks owner Mark Cuban claimed it should have been a violation. Seconds later, Dallas tried to call a timeout and got charged their final one, apparently because of a misread gesture. Both calls added fuel to the theory. The motive? Business. The league had a rising star in Wade and a market in Miami that offered way more narrative juice than a Mavericks sweep. Letting Dallas dominate wouldn't have the same ratings appeal, according to the theory. Cuban didn't hold back. He said the title was stolen, and former referee Tim Donaghy backed him, claiming the officiating had league-friendly intent. The Mavericks' frustration was visible, and Cuban ended up getting fined. The theory says the league needed a longer series, a bigger story, and a star-making stage. Wade's parade to the line, the key calls, and the sudden momentum shift all play into that idea. Dallas had control, but the theory says Miami had the lead. Wilt's 100-point game. The theory says it never actually happened. Not the points, not the historic moment, not the legendary photo. It all comes down to one bold idea, that the most iconic record in NBA history was either exaggerated or staged. First, there's no video. None. The game wasn't televised, and there's no known footage of the full game. Just a partial fourth quarter radio recording. For a game where one player supposedly dropped 100 points, the total lack of visual proof fuels the doubt. Then there's the setting. Hershey, Pennsylvania. Not exactly a mecca for pro basketball. A minor venue, a crowd of about 4,000, and a matchup that didn't scream historic night. It was a small market game in a small market arena, and that makes the whole thing feel strangely underwhelming for such a massive achievement. The numbers don't help. Chamberlain was a terrible free throw shooter across his career, yet that night, he hit 28 of 32. The Warriors and Knicks combined for over 300 points, which was wild for that time. The theory says the stats just don't line up with what was typical. Even the box score gets questioned. The radio broadcast gave a different final score than what's officially listed. Some players couldn't agree on what happened in the final second. And that famous 100 sign, supposedly handwritten by the team's PR guy after the game, not exactly hard evidence. The theory argues that in a time before cameras were everywhere, the league had every reason to build a legend. An unbelievable record, no full footage, and a moment captured by a paper sign. To believers, it's the biggest story that never happened. Level 2, casual deep cut. Jordan's secret suspension. The theory claims Michael Jordan didn't retire in 1993. He was secretly suspended by the NBA. The reason? Gambling. Not just casual bets, but high-stakes wagers on golf, cards, and who knows what else. The league, according to the theory, couldn't risk its golden image being tainted by scandal. So they made a deal. Jordan walked away at the top. 3 straight titles, still dominant. Then out of nowhere, he retires and joins a minor league baseball team. The theory says this wasn't a passion project. It was a quiet exile, a suspension in disguise. It just happened to follow closely after his father's tragic murder, which the theory says gave perfect emotional cover. The language from Jordan himself adds intrigue. He once said, "If David Stern lets me back in the league," that phrasing fuels speculation. Why would the best player alive need permission to return unless someone told him to leave? His baseball run didn't light up the world. He hit just over 200 with the Birmingham Barons, but it kept him away long enough. The timeline, the theory says, fits too well. He left right after the 3rd title, stayed away just long enough to look like a break, then returned in 1995, famously announcing, "I'm back." With the NBA's reputation at stake, the theory holds that keeping Jordan's issues quiet was in everyone's best interest. The league preserved its image, Jordan avoided public backlash, and fans were left with a mysterious gap in one of the greatest careers ever. Chris Paul veto. The theory centers on December 2011, when a blockbuster trade that would have sent Chris Paul to the Lakers was shut down, not by a team, but by the league itself. Paul, an all-star with the New Orleans Hornets, had already made it clear he wanted out. The Lakers, Rockets, and Hornets agreed on a 3-team deal, and it was ready to go. But the NBA said no. The Hornets were owned by the NBA at the time, and Commissioner David Stern was acting as their boss. When the trade was submitted, Stern stepped in and blocked it, claiming basketball reasons. That phrase has lived in infamy ever since. The theory says it wasn't just about roster balance, it was about control. The original deal would have sent Paul to the Lakers, Pau to the Rockets, and players like Lamar Odom, Kevin Martin, Louis Scola, Goran Dragic, and a pick to the Hornets. But the league felt that return didn't hold enough value for a team they were actively trying to sell. Keeping the Hornets marketable was a top priority, and this trade didn't fit. There was also pressure from other owners. The idea of the Lakers pairing Paul with Kobe Bryant caused concern. The theory says competitive balance fears, mixed with the league's control of the Hornets, led to the veto. 6 days later, Paul was traded to the Clippers instead, for Eric Gordon, Chris Kaman, Al-Farouq Aminu, and a pick. That one was approved. The result? The Lakers missed their target. The Clippers rose to relevant, and the veto became a defining moment where league power overruled front office deal. To this day, it's a rare moment in NBA history where a superstar trade was shut down from the top. Heat Big Three, prearranged. The theory claims LeBron James, D. Wade, and Chris Bosh didn't just decide to team up in 2010. The whole thing was set up in advance. According to this theory, The NBA, the Miami Heat, and the players all played a role in building the league's next powerhouse before the public even knew it was possible. All three stars hit free agency at the same time. That alone set off alarms. The theory says the synchronized contracts and shared timing weren't a coincidence. They were groundwork. Miami had the cap space lined up, while most teams didn't. The theory holds that the Heat front office planned years ahead, clearing room and quietly lining up conversations behind closed doors. Wade himself has admitted the three had early talks about playing together. He said they discussed it and left open the possibility. But the theory pushes that further, claiming these weren't casual conversations. It was a blueprint, with league approval or at least passive allowance. The NBA had plenty to gain, a super team in a warm, media-friendly city with international stars. It gave the league a ratings spike and a new villain narrative that dominated cover. The Heat instantly became a TV draw. The theory suggests that kind of outcome was too good to leave to chance. The phrase Big Three became a brand overnight. Other teams followed the same pattern, and the Heat made 4 straight finals. The theory says it wasn't magic, it was marketing, wrapped in talent and time to perfection. All 3 stars, one team, one market, all too clean, all too convenient. To believers, this wasn't a free agency win, it was a setup. Sonics move pre-planned. The theory says the Seattle Supersonics' relocation to Oklahoma City wasn't an unfortunate fallout. It was the plan all along. When Clay Bennett's group bought the team in 2006, they publicly agreed to try keeping it in Seattle. But according to the theory, they were already packing boxes. Aubrey McClendon, one of Bennett's partners, told a local paper in 2007 that they bought the team to move it. That quote cost him a $250,000 fine from the NBA, but it also gave fuel to the theory that the move was never in doubt. Then there's the arena strategy. After buying the team, Bennett's group proposed a $500 million arena in Renton. That failed. Right after, they started pushing for relocation. Meanwhile, Oklahoma City was already prepping. Voters approved $120 million in Ford Center upgrades, while the team still technically belonged to Seattle. It didn't stop there. In September 2007, Bennett tried to break the key arena lease, which ran through 2010. 2 months later, he told the NBA he wanted to move as soon as legally possible. And in Seattle's lawsuit, emails emerged. Internal messages from Bennett's group allegedly showed they never intended to stay. The theory says the good faith clause in the sale was just a formality. By April 2008, the NBA approved the move. The team paid $45 million to exit early. Seattle lost its franchise. Oklahoma City gained the Thunder. The theory holds that this wasn't relocation. It was a calculated extraction. From day one, they knew where the team was going. Seattle just didn't know it yet. Cavs gifted Andrew Wiggins. Cleveland had just a 1.7% chance of winning the top pick in the 2014 draft. Somehow, that tiny sliver of hope turned into Andrew Wiggins. Less than 2 months later, Wiggins was packaged up with Anthony Bennett and a future first-rounder and shipped to Minnesota for Kevin Love. Suddenly, the Cavs had a new big three: LeBron James, Kyrie, and Kevin Love. That trio would go on to win a championship. But the way it all lined up, that's where the theory starts cooking. Fans didn't just raise an eyebrow at the odds. They noticed the pattern. Cleveland won the lottery 3 times in 4 years after LeBron left. That's wild on its own. Add in the fact that the league's most marketable player returned the exact same summer as they landed the #1 pick. The timing looked way too clean. The pick was flipped instantly to build a super team. It all felt way too perfect. So now, this theory lives on. Fans point to this moment as one of the clearest examples of the draft lottery looking rigged. The league denies it. Cavs execs roll their eye, but the suspicion hasn't gone away. With other teams getting lucky at just the right time too, it keeps the conspiracy alive. Level 3, mid-level hidden story. 2011, slam dunk contest theory. Blake Griffin flies over a Kia Optima. A choir sings "I Believe I Can Fly," and the arena erupts. But as soon as the lights dim, the whispers start. The theory says the dunk contest wasn't just about dunks. It was a staged commercial dressed up as a competition. Kia was a major sponsor of the NBA, and Griffin, he was already in their ads. So when he cleared the hood of a brand new Optima and took home the trophy, some fans started asking the obvious. Was this about dunking or branding? It didn't help that promo material showing Griffin and the car reportedly leaked before the contest even happened. That timing raised eyebrows. The theory says outcome was already decided, that the league had a script, and Griffin leaping over a sponsor's car was the closing act. Meanwhile, JaVale McGee was throwing down creative, technical dunks. 2 balls, 2 hoops, Real originality, but no choir, no car, no moment built for national television. Griffin later admitted the dunk idea was his, but the specific car wasn't. He wanted a convertible. They gave him a sedan. And that detail, it's what makes the theory stick. The NBA controlled the prop. The league wanted the sponsorship, and they got it. The contest had all the drama of a scripted ad spot. Judges handed out tens, but the real payoff was for Kia. To theory believers, Griffin didn't just jump over a car, he jumped straight into a marketing campaign. The trophy said Slam Dunk Champion, but the whole thing looked like it was brought to you by the NBA sales team. Jordan push-off, Game 6, 1998 Finals, Bulls down 1. Michael Jordan dribbles right, crosses left, and Brian Russell is guarding him tight. Then just as Jordan plants for the shot, his left hand touches Russell's hip. Russell stumbles. Jordan pulls up. Swish. Bulls lead. Bulls win. 6th ring secured. But here's the theory. Did Jordan push? Fans and analysts have watched that moment frame by frame for decades. The theory says Jordan used that offhand to create separation, giving himself just enough room to rise up uncontested. No whistle, no foul, just one of the most iconic shots in basketball history. Jordan's take? He said Russell's momentum did all the work, that he barely touched, but others see it differently. John Stockton, Russell's own teammate, flat out said there was a push. Still, even Stockton added he wouldn't have called it. Danny Crawford, the referee closest to the action, said the contact was light. Not enough for a finals foul. The NBA is known for swallowing whistles late in close games, especially in the finals. Let the players decide it, they say. And in this case, the theory argues that the league's unofficial rule of no ticky-tack calls in big moments worked in Jordan's favor. Russell was already leaning that direction, which might have helped the fall look worse. Still, the camera caught that hand on the hip, and conspiracy theorists have never let it go. Was it a subtle nudge or just the laws of physics? Either way, Jordan rose, fired, and nailed the shot. Whether it was a clean move or a crafty shove, it ended the Bulls dynasty on a perfect note, one that still sparks debate every time the clip rolls. Chris Paul versus Scott Foster, the targeting theory. The theory claims veteran referee Scott Foster hasn't just been tough on Chris Paul, he's actively targeted him. The numbers are what sparked it. Paul's teams have lost at least 13 straight playoff games when Foster is the crew chief. That stat alone turned a referee assignment into a red flag. It's not just box scores either. Paul has said the situation is personal. In 2023, he pointed to a confrontation from years earlier, claiming Foster honked at him in front of his kid. That led to a sit-down with league officials, Paul, his father, Doc Rivers, and Foster. Not exactly a casual misunderstanding. On the floor, things haven't looked any better. Paul's been hit with technicals from Foster that he said felt more like power moves than officiating. In one case, he was tossed from a game and later hinted that the league was already aware of what was going on. We already know the history, he said. Analysts noticed patterns. In games where Paul's team was favored, they still lost with Foster officiating. The theory argues this can't be random. Instead, it sees Foster's assignments and in-game decisions as deliberate, enough to tilt momentum in critical matchups. Foster's reputation doesn't help. In league surveys, he's often voted among the most disliked referees by players. The theory says the NBA's continued assignment of Foster to Paul's games, despite the controversy, makes it worse. It's seen as either negligence or quiet approval. According to the theory, this isn't just bad luck or a cold streak. It's a one-sided feud in uniform. And every time Foster blows the whistle, the theory says it's less about the rules and more about the rivalry. 2017 NBA Draft Lottery Theory. The Lakers were teetering on the edge. With the third worst record, they had a 15.6% chance at the top pick and a real risk of losing it altogether if it fell outside the top 3. But when the ping pong ball settled, they landed second. Just enough to keep the pick. Just enough to draft Lonzo Ball. Here's where the theory kicks in. Ball was a homegrown product. UCLA star, flashy passer, huge media draw, and his father, LeVar, was a walking soundbite factory. The Lakers needed a spark, and the league, according to the theory, it needed the Lakers back in the spotlight. If their pick slipped to 4th, it was heading to Philadelphia. Instead, they stayed exactly where they had to, right in line for a media-friendly reboot. For theory believers, that felt a little too neat, too convenient, like a plot twist the league wanted in its summer drama. The numbers weren't outrageous. The outcome was possible, but the theory isn't about math. It's about vibes. A big market team on the ropes gets saved by a miracle bound, and suddenly there's a shiny new face of the franchise with a built-in marketing. The lottery took place behind closed doors. Sure, no phones, no edit. Team reps and auditors watched. But when the result fits the script too perfectly, people start writing their own version. The Lakers avoided disaster. They got the hometown kid, the crowd got a new storyline, and the theory, it stuck around, fueled by timing, optics, and a little bit of bounce-induced magic. Enes Kanter, blackballed theory. The theory says Enes Kanter freedom didn't fade out of the league because of talent. He was shut out for his activism. Drafted 3rd overall in 2011, he played for multiple teams and developed a reputation as a physical rebounder and reliable role player. But off the court, he was loud and not about basketball. Kanter criticized the Chinese government over human rights abuses, especially toward the Uyghur population. He wore protest-themed sneakers. He called out the NBA and its business ties to China, and soon after, he was gone. The theory claims that wasn't a coincidence. It was a consequence. In early 2022, after a trade to Houston, the Rockets waived. That was his last NBA stop. Kanter says his outspoken stance made him too risky for teams tied to league revenue from China. He believes his activism turned him from a veteran asset into a business liability. He publicly stated, "Of course, everybody knows I am being blackballed by the NBA for the things I stand for." He even told Congress he was blacklisted. According to the theory, his value on the court didn't drop off. His willingness to speak out just became too inconvenient. Critics of the theory argue it's just a case of declining performance. But Kanter's supporters point to timing. His stats didn't crater. His minutes disappeared right as his activism hit headline. And in some cases, Chinese broadcasters reportedly pulled games when he played. The theory sees the league's silence as telling. No official discipline, no acknowledgement, just fewer offers, a quiet exit, and a player who says standing up cost him his spot. Not benched, not cut, blackball. That's the claim. Level 4. Serious insider lore. Luka trade and Mavericks relocation. The theory says Luka wasn't just traded, he was removed to help break the city's connection to the Mavericks. On February 2nd, 2025, Dallas sent Luka, age 25, to the Lakers for 32-year-old Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 pick. No injuries, no trade demand, no obvious basketball reason, just one of the league's biggest stars, gone. Luka had just taken Dallas to the finals the season before. He averaged 33.9 points per game, yet the return package looked like a downgrade. Older talent, minimal long-term value. That's where the theory starts. It claims the trade wasn't about roster building, it was about fan erosion. The Mavericks were recently purchased by the Adelson family, owners with deep roots in Las Vegas and casino development. According to the theory, the Luka trade was a way to sour the Dallas fan base and clear a path toward relocating the team to Las Vegas. After the trade, protests broke out. Season ticket holders backed out. Trust evaporated. Team Governor Patrick Dumont denied any relocation plans. Commissioner Adam Silver also dismissed the idea. But the theory says their words don't match the moves. Gut the roster, tank the fan support, let the city turn on the franchise, and then pitch a fresh start in a city that's been circling an NBA expansion bid for years. To believers, the Luka deal wasn't just a bad trade. It was the first domino, a strategic unraveling of a franchise so that when the move to Las Vegas happens, the backlash will already be exhausted. Not a rebuild, a relocation in slow motion. Paul Pierce pooped his pants and faked an injury. Game 1 of the 2008 NBA Final. Paul Pierce hits the floor in the third quarter after a collision with a Lakers player. He grabs his knee. The crowd goes silent. Moments later, he's in a wheelchair, being rolled off the court like his season just ended. Then, minutes later, he jogs back out of the tunnel like nothing happened, hits some shots, leads the Celtics to a win. That's where the theory begins. Fans started asking, what kind of injury needs a wheelchair? And then disappears. 5 minutes later, the theory says it wasn't a knee. It was a bathroom emergency. Specifically, that Pierce had an accident on the court and used the wheelchair as cover to avoid walking off with a stain on his white shorts. The idea exploded online. It had just enough logic to live. Fast injury exit, suspiciously quick return, and no actual diagnosis afterward. Then in 2019, Pierce added fuel. He went on TV and said, "I had to go to the bathroom." Cue the internet meltdown. But soon after, he walked it back, saying he was joking, and argued that if he really had an accident, sitting in a wheelchair would have made things worse. That didn't stop the theory. The image of Pierce in that chair, combined with the bizarre timeline, locked it into NBA lore. Whether it was a real injury or a fake out for a bathroom break, the moment still stands out. He returned, played great, and won Finals MVP. But for some fans, Game 1 wasn't just about the comeback, it was about the cover-up. And the wheelchair wasn't for his leg, it was for his dignity. 2012, draft rigged for New Orleans. The theory says the NBA didn't leave the draft to chance. They handed the number 1 pick to the Hornets on purpose. Why? To gift wrap Anthony Davis for a soon-to-be new owner. In December 2010, the NBA stepped in and bought the Hornets from George Shinn. The league literally owned the team. They ran it, they blocked trades, and they searched for a buyer. Fast forward to April 13, 2012, Tom Benson, who also owned the Saints, agreed to purchase the Hornets for $338 million. Then, just weeks later, on May 30th, New Orleans hit the draft jackpot with only a 13.7% chance. That win landed them Anthony Davis, a generational talent, a player expected to reshape the franchise. And that's where the theory takes hold. The timing felt too perfect. New owner secured, value-boosting superstar acquired. The theory claims the league sweetened the pot, that Benson didn't just buy a team, he bought a team about to draft a future all-star. Even though the lottery was conducted in a sealed room, league officials, team reps, media, and auditors, skeptics aren't convinced. They argue the league had motive and opportunity. They say the drawing might have looked official, but the outcome was engineered. Davis changed everything for the Hornets. Marketability, performance, long-term relevance, all boosted. And the theory believes that wasn't luck. It was a business decision dressed as a lottery win. New owner, new face of the franchise, and a neat little storyline that kept the league's investment from turning into a disaster. Secret NBA GM on Twitter. The theory says someone on the inside, front office, agent circle, or maybe a disgruntled staffer, went rogue and started leaking league secrets straight to fans under the name Dropping Dimes 20. Not some vague tweet storm either. This account hit with precision. James Harden opting in and requesting a trade, called before Woj or Shams. Bruce Brown signing with Indiana, tweeted early. Fred VanVleet to Houston, Chris Middleton staying in Milwaukee, all posted ahead of the news cycle. Then once the Harden report blew up and NBA Twitter took notice, the account tweeted, "I'm him," and vanished. Just like that. Dropping Dimes, 20 deactivated, gone, deleted. Fans started joking the NBA kicked down the door. Then came the copycats, accounts claiming the name, chasing the same hype. One came back, Dropping Dimes 50, sounding just like the original. More scoops, same tone, same chaos. The theory spiraled. Some said it was a fired Sixers intern, laid off after team budget cuts and out for revenge. Others believed it was an assistant GM or scout running the best burner account of all time. No one confirmed anything, but the accuracy stayed creepy. Even tweets that weren't archived, like the Damian Lillard trade update or Cam Whitmore's unexpected draft slide, somehow matched what ended up happening. Coincidence? Or real-time leaks without a trace? Michael Jordan pushed The Last Dance. The theory says The Last Dance wasn't just a documentary, it was a counterattack. After LeBron James pulled off the 3-1 comeback in the 2016 final, GOAT talk wasn't just trending, it was tilting. Suddenly, LeBron was being crowned, and Michael Jordan, he was watching it all unfold. That same year, Jordan reportedly gave ESPN the green light for the documentary footage. He'd been sitting on hours of never-before-seen content from that 97-98 Bulls season. Years passed without a release. Then LeBron takes down the 73-win Warriors, and Jordan says, "Let's do it." Not subtle, not accidental. The theory claims Jordan saw the shift and responded. 10 episodes, full control, stories told through his lens, his voice, his highlight reel. It was 6 rings, clutch plays, iconic moments, on repeat. It wasn't a documentary, it was a reminder, and it landed. Players like Ja Morant admitted it changed their opinion on the GOAT debate. Analysts started rewriting the rankings. The conversation moved back in Jordan's direction, exactly when it looked like the torch might have passed. Fans point to the timing as the giveaway. Why then? Why not release it years earlier or wait longer? Because according to the theory, that was the moment. The pressure was real. LeBron's narrative was climbing, and Jordan decided to lock his in. Not with a tweet, not with a press tour, with a 10-part legacy drop that recentered the basketball universe around number 23. Whether it was reaction or coincidence, the theory says Jordan saw his crown slipping and responded by producing a global reminder that the throne wasn't empty. It was just waiting for its close-up. Level 5. Underground NBA Files. 2019. Draft lottery was rigged for New Orleans. The theory says the NBA didn't just hand the Pelicans a top pick, they handed them a lifeline. In January of 2019, Anthony Davis demanded out. He wanted a trade, and he wanted it now. That shook the Pelicans to the core. Their only star wanted to leave, and suddenly, the team's future in New Orleans looked shaky. Fast forward to May 14th. The Pelicans had just a 6% shot at the number 1 pick. Not the worst odds, but nowhere near the best. And yet, when the ping pong ball settled, New Orleans landed the top spot. and the right to draft Zion Williamson, a generational talent, explosive, marketable, box office ready. According to the theory, this wasn't luck, it was strategy. The NBA had stepped in to keep the Pelicans from collapsing. With Davis on the way out, the team needed a new face, a reason for fans to stay, a reason for the franchise to remain viable in a market that had already flirted with instability. And Zion was the answer. The theory points to history. In 2012, after the league had owned the team, the Pelicans won the lottery and drafted Davis. Then in 2019, right after Davis wanted out, the ping pong balls land perfectly again. To believers, that pattern's a little too clean. The league says the lottery is airtight, random, secured. But the timing of Zion's arrival, right when the Pelicans needed a miracle, makes the theory hard to ignore. Felt like the NBA wasn't just shaping the draft board, it was saving a franchise. Twice. Terry Rozier gambling investigation theory. This one centers on the idea that Terry Rozier might have been involved in rigging his own performance for gambling gains. The spotlight landed on a game from March 23rd, 2023. At the time, Terry was playing for Charlotte. That night, he logged only 9 minutes, citing a foot injury. But here's what raised eyebrow. A wave of large bets poured in before tip-off, all banking on Terry underperforming. The group US Integrity picked up on the pattern and flagged it. The NBA launched a probe, and by October 23, 2025, Terry was arrested by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Prosecutors claim he shared insider info, specifically that he'd exit early due to injury, with people who placed over $200,000 in bets tied to his stat line. That game wasn't random. Between December 2022 and March 2024, prosecutors say this crew placed bets using leaked info from inside NBA Circle. The result? Charges for wire fraud conspiracy and money laundering. The NBA quickly placed Terry on leave and froze his salary. But not everything points straight to guilt. Back in 2024, the league ran its own internal review and didn't find Terry breaking any NBA rules. Plus, low stats in a single game, even with weird timing, doesn't prove much on its own. Still, the case is live, and the implications are huge. Legalized betting has cracked the door for stuff like this. If Terry's guilty, the fallout could stretch far past him. No verdict yet, no final chapter written. But if the theory holds, it'd mark one of the most damaging scandals the league's faced. NBA Finals, Facebook, leak theory. Right before Game 7 of the 2016 Western Conference Finals, fans noticed something that made a lot of people raise their eyebrows. On the NBA's official Facebook page, a finals matchup graph appeared showing the Cleveland Cavaliers and Golden State Warriors. Only problem? The Warriors hadn't even played the Oklahoma City Thunder yet. That Game 7 hadn't tipped off. But there it was, in plain sight. Fans jumped on it fast. Screenshots flew all over social media. And just like that, the theory mill was wide open. The post got pulled down quickly, but it was too late. People already saw it. The idea spread. Maybe the NBA already knew the result. Maybe this whole thing wasn't as spontaneous as they wanted everyone to believe. Commissioner Adam Silver tried to explain it away. He said it was a Ticketmaster error, a scheduling thing that got published too early. According to him, the league didn't have any preference for who made it to the finals. He even pointed out that they couldn't guess which matchup would get better ratings anyway, but fans weren't buying it. The real twist? The Warriors did win Game 7. The matchup from that leaked post ended up being exactly right. Coincidence? Maybe. But for a lot of people, that one post was all they needed to believe something else was going on. The timing just lined up a little too neatly. Even if it was a mistake, it gave fans more reason to believe the narrative was written before the games were even played. That one accidental click turned into the smoking gun for a theory that still gets people talking today. Dwight Howard was left off the NBA's top 75 because of politics. On paper, Dwight Howard had the kind of resume that should have made the NBA's top 75 list a lock. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 8 All-Star selections, 5 All-NBA first-team honors. The guy had hardware, but when the league dropped its anniversary list, his name was nowhere. Fans weren't quiet, and neither were players. Stan Van Gundy, who coached him in Orlando, didn't hold back. He called it ridiculous. Richard Jefferson didn't mince words either. Said straight up it was political. Not exactly random fans yelling into the void. These were voices from inside the league. Dwight spoke up too. He didn't dance around it. He blamed politics. Not the government kind, the behind-the-scenes, image-shaping kind. Stuff that doesn't show up on stat sheets. He pointed to off-court stories, the hard-to-deal-with reputation, and yes, that Charlotte incident, where things got real awkward with a courtside grab that went viral. And even with all that, his teammates stood by him. Jameer Nelson flat out said it made no sense. Fans online started digging into comparisons. And what they found? Dwight outperformed plenty of guys who made the list. More blocks, more rebound, better prime. The numbers weren't hiding. But this wasn't about number. That's what makes the theory hit harder. It's not just a snub. It's about how off-court perception can override on-court dominance. A top 75 list that claims to honor basketball greatness might have been swayed by personal bias. That's the theory anyway, that Dwight's resume wasn't the problem. It was everything else. And that changes how a lot of people see the list altogether. The NBA blackballed Royce White for his activism, not just his anxiety. Back in 2012, the Houston Rockets took Royce White with the 16th pick, knowing he had generalized anxiety disorder and a serious fear of flying. He asked for accommodations like traveling by bus, and the league agreed. But that NBA career, it barely existed. 3 games, that's it. A couple D-League appearances, then a short run in Sacramento. Most people chalked it up to anxiety, but the theory says otherwise. It wasn't about logistics. It was about what White said out loud. He didn't just talk about mental health. He went after Big Pharma, questioned government power, and called out what he saw as racial capitalism in pro sports. That's when things shifted. After leaving the league, he didn't fade away. He marched at protests after George Floyd's death, slammed the NBA for selective messaging, and refused to toe the line. That's where the theory really takes off. Insiders say teams were quietly told he was a risk, not because of anxiety, but because of what he might say next. He wasn't silent, and that scared people. No team brought him back, even after he dominated overseas and won MVP in Canada. Meanwhile, the NBA leaned into mental health campaigns. But White wasn't buying it. He said they hijacked the message without backing it up. The idea here is simple. The league didn't want the noise, not the public challenges, not the activism, not the question. His anxiety became the shield for a much deeper move, keeping someone out who wouldn't stay in line. He could still hoop, he just couldn't be controlled. And that, more than anything, may have cost him his career. Level 6, Dark Basketball Secrets. The Spurs broke the AC on purpose. Game 1 of the 2014 NBA Finals took a strange turn. The San Antonio Spurs were hosting the Miami Heat, and inside the AT&T Center, things got way too hot. Literally, the air conditioning failed, and temperatures inside the building climbed past 90 degrees. LeBron James, clearly affected, was caught during a timeout saying, "I'm going to need some colder water now. They are trying to smoke us out of here." That line stuck with people. Late in the fourth quarter, James cramped up so badly, he had to leave the game. He missed the final 4 minutes, and without him, the Spurs exploded. They went on a 31-9 run, capped by a 16-3 stretch that locked up the win. After the game, San Antonio blamed the Heat on an electrical issue and put out a statement apologizing, but fans weren't buying it. The theory says this wasn't some random failure. It was a calculated move to wear down Miami's star, especially one known for dealing with cramping in high heat conditions. The building gets cooled every night of the regular season, but somehow, during the biggest game of the year, it malfunctions. The timing felt too perfect. San Antonio took full advantage. They won the series in 5 games and walked away with their 5th title. But for some fans, Game 1 still sticks out, not because of a buzzer beater or a highlight dunk, but because the building felt like a sauna. The theory goes that the Spurs didn't just bring the heat with their play, they made sure the building did too. And it may have changed the finals before it ever really began. Draymond Green's suspension was rigged to save the final. The Warriors were rolling through the 2016 final, up 3-1. With that record-breaking 73-9 season behind them, it looked like the championship was locked in. Then Game 4 flipped the script. Late in the fourth quarter, LeBron James stepped over Draymond Green in what many saw as a taunt. Green didn't hold back. He reacted, swung his arm, and made contact with LeBron below the belt. The league reviewed it and called it a flagrant foul 1. That alone wouldn't have been a huge deal, but it gave Green 4 flagrant foul points during the postseason, and that meant a 1-game suspension. The timing couldn't have been better. For the league, that is. With Green out for Game 5, the Warriors couldn't hold off the Cavaliers, losing 112-97. Suddenly, what looked like a wrap turned into a comeback story. The theory? That the NBA wanted more drama. A longer series meant higher ratings, bigger profit, and way more headline. Even former referee Tim Donaghy hinted that the league might have had a reason to drag it out. It was all just too clean, too perfect. Green was the emotional core of the team. Without him, Golden State lost their edge. The Cavaliers didn't waste the chance. They stormed all the way back, and the rest is history. And here's the kicker. Draymond Green admitted later that his suspension could have cost them the title. Whether the league planned it or not, that 1-game sit-out changed everything. Fans have run with the theory ever since. And honestly, I get why. The whole thing just felt way too convenient. The 2023 NBA Draft Lottery was rigged for San Antonio to get Victor Wembanyama. When the Spurs won the number 1 pick on May 16, 2023, a lot of fans were quick to call foul. They only had a 14% chance to land it, but somehow came out on top. And it wasn't their first lucky break either. San Antonio had already won the number 1 pick twice before, first in 1987 to grab David Robinson, then again in 1997 for Tim Duncan. Both turned into Hall of Famers and championship anchor. That's where the theory kicks in. People started claiming the league had plans. They wanted Wemby in San Antonio. Why? Because the Spurs had already built a legacy with international stars. Tony Parker and Manu were huge in that era, and Wemby, coming from France, seemed like the perfect next chapter. Critics say the NBA also had a business angle. The Spurs hadn't made the playoffs in 4 straight years. Interest was fading. Ticket sales? Not great. But landing Wemby instantly changed all that. Meanwhile, teams like Detroit and Houston, who had worse records, dropped in the order. Then Wemby made things spicier. He talked about San Antonio's connection with France like it was destiny. That only made the theorists louder. The league says the lottery's clean and controlled. They even televised the results, but not the actual drawing. Fans didn't care. To them, this was too perfect to be luck. 3 number 1 picks, 3 generational talent, and now possibly another. Dynasty, the timing, the connections, the history, all of it had fans convinced the draft wasn't just a lottery, it was a setup, and the Spurs were always meant to win. John Stockton, assist inflation theory. This one's been floating around for years. The idea? The Utah Jazz stat crew boosted John Stockton's assist numbers to make him look like a passing legend. The main fuel for the theory is his assist average, 10.9 at home versus 10.1 on the road. To some, that split screams foul play. But here's where it gets interesting. That kind of home bump isn't rare at all. Jason Kidd had a bigger gap. Mark Jackson did too. Assists aren't cold, hard stats. They're judgment calls. And back in the 90s, those calls were all over the place. Still, the rumors kept growing. One former scorekeeper even admitted to padding stats and mentioned Stockton by name. And here's the kicker. Even if Stockton's home assists were downgraded to match his road numbers, he'd still be at the top of the all-time list. By a lot. A deep Reddit investigation laid it out plain and simple. The theory sounded juicy, but the math didn't cooperate. So yeah, while it's fun to picture Stockton racking up fake assists every night at the Delta Center, the reality is less dramatic. If there was an effort to rig his numbers, it didn't really work. He'd still be passing everyone in the record books. The theory's got buzz, but the numbers just won't back it up. Turns out Stockton didn't need any help making history. Ryan Anderson is colorblind. This theory claims Ryan Anderson's shooting struggles in certain arenas weren't just slumps, they were caused by color blindness, specifically red. The idea is that when he played in red-heavy arenas, his depth perception got thrown off. Courts like the Bulls, Hawks, and Rockets loaded with red. And supposedly, that color messes with how far away the basket looks, making it appear closer than it really is. Now the numbers are what make people lean into this one. During the 2016 season with the Rockets, Anderson shot 37% from the field and 33.2% from 3 at home. But when he hit the road, he jumped to 46.1% from the field and 46.7% from 3. And it wasn't just field goals. Even his free throws improved, 77.3% at home versus 92.9% on the road. That's not a small bump. People also bring up Tracy McGrady, who once said Toyota Center setup messed with his depth perception. Add that to Chicago's red court, another red-heavy place, and the theory picks up steam. Anderson's career numbers in Chicago, 33.5% from the field and 29.1% from 3, both way under his usual production. The theory says it's not a coincidence. The red color scheme throws everything off, and if Anderson really is colorblind, it would explain why he looked like a completely different player depending on where he played. No official diagnosis, no confirmation, just a weird pattern, some shaky shooting, and a lot of red. But hey, sometimes the wildest theories have the strangest receipts. Level 7, NBA conspiracies you're not supposed to know. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf was blackballed for his protest. In 1996, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf refused to stand during the national anthem. At the time, he was one of the NBA's top shooters, a former most improved player, and a starter for the Denver Nuggets. But after the anthem protest, everything changed. The NBA suspended him for 1 game, fined him over $31,000, and within months, Denver traded him to Sacramento. That's where the theory kicks in. Abdul-Rauf's role immediately shrank. From lead scorer to role player, his minutes and touches dropped fast. Not because he couldn't play, his shooting percentage stayed strong, but because, as the theory goes, he became a political liability. He was vocal. He called the flag a symbol of oppression. He spoke on faith, race, and government power. That alone set him apart from most athletes of the time. He didn't stay quiet, and the league didn't embrace that. He said he knows what happened, that teams were told not to bring him in. Not officially, but through quiet conversations and cautionary warning. He drew comparisons to Colin Kaepernick decades later. Different sport, same story. There were no official bans, no public memo, but teams stopped calling. Despite staying in shape and showing he could still shoot, no one gave him a real shot. He played overseas, came back briefly, but never found a steady role again. The NBA later leaned into activism, but Abdul-Rauf called that out too. Said the messaging was watered down, the truth buried. His protest came too early, his voice too sharp. The theory says he didn't vanish from the league because he lost his game. He vanished because he used his voice, and the league wasn't ready to hear it. Manute Bol lied about his age. The theory says Bol wasn't in his 20s when he entered the NBA. He was much older. Officially, Bol was born October 16, 1962, which would have made him about 22 or 23 when he was drafted in 1985. But that date, completely made up, according to the coach who brought him to the U.S. Kevin Mackey, then at Cleveland State, admitted he created the birthday from scratch. His quote, "Every athletic door is open at 19. Every athletic door is closed when you're 35. He didn't think Bol was anywhere near his 20s. In fact, Mackey suggested Bol could have been 40 or even 50 when he entered the league. Teammates added to the mystery. Jason Williams once joked Bol might have been 55 before retiring. None of this was backed by documents, because in Bol's home region, formal birth records weren't common. Even Bol himself admitted he didn't know his exact age. What makes the theory stick is how long Bol lasted in the NBA and how unusual his body was. Standing 7'7", with a frame built for blocking shots, he played a full decade. If the birth date was wrong, he might have been well into his 40s by the time he retired. Of course, there's no birth certificate to prove he was older, but if Mackey made up the date just to get him eligible, then the entire career was built on that number. The theory says Bol wasn't a young phenom. He was an older warrior, dominating in a league that never truly knew how old he was. And if that's true, it makes his career even more unreal. Not just a tall tale, maybe the most mysterious age gap in NBA history. Dikembe's draft tweet theory on May 17, 2016. Hours before the NBA draft lottery went live, Dikembe hit the internet with a tweet congratulating the Philadelphia 76ers on landing the number 1 pick. The problem? The pick hadn't been announced yet. The ping pong balls were still in the machine. Fans lost it. Conspiracy theories exploded across social media. How did Dikembe know the result before it happened? Had the draft already been decided behind the scenes? The tweet looked like a giant spoiler for a supposedly random event. Later, Dikembe tried to clear it up. He said the Sixers had emailed him and a few other former players with pre-written messages to post if the team won. The plan was to have them ready to fire off after the lottery results were announced. He claimed he misread the instructions and sent his message early by mistake. He deleted the tweet and followed up with a revised one, saying he got carried away. But it was too late. Screenshots had already flooded the internet. The damage was done. The NBA defended the process. They pointed out that the real drawing happens behind closed doors, with team reps and independent observers locked in with no outside contact. But fans weren't convinced. They kept pointing to the fact that the Sixers did end up with the number 1 pick, just like Dikembe's tweet predicted. For conspiracy theorists, it was a slip-up that exposed a fixed result. For others, it was just a case of bad timing and a simple mistake. One early tweet, 4 hours too soon, and almost 10 years later, people are still debating whether it was an accident or the draft's smoking gun. Markelle Fultz motorcycle accident. Here's how the theory goes. During the summer after being drafted first overall by Philadelphia, Markelle Fultz crashed a motorcycle, messed up his shoulder, and the whole thing got buried. This didn't start from some anonymous fan forum either. In November of 2018, an NBA reporter went live on a radio show and said it directly. That same day, a basketball site claimed they got messages from someone backing the whole story. The timing was sketchy. Fultz had already become the most confusing number 1 pick in years. He entered the league with a clean jumper and left fans wondering if he forgot how to shoot. His form fell apart so fast, people started looking for reasons, and the motorcycle theory stuck. Then came the medical angle. Doctors diagnosed him with thoracic outlet syndrome, a condition involving nerves and blood vessels around the shoulder. Legit, sure, but less exciting than a secret crash. The theory didn't die. Fultz's agent called it 100% false. Fultz said he'd heard the rumors, but didn't say much more. No hospital file, no news story, no eyewitness popping up to say, "I saw the wreck." Just whispered. The Sixers kept things vague. He missed chunks of games. His mechanics were bizarre. And fans just kept asking, what happened? Now years later, Fultz is still around. Third team, decent backup, serviceable minutes. The shoulder works again kind of, but that one summer, still a blank space. The theory stays alive because nobody ever really answered the question. Not with proof, just enough silence to keep it alive. Was it a motorcycle? Was it just nerves? Or did something happen that the league didn't want to explain? Rob Hennigan, Oklahoma City trade sabotage theory. In 2016, the Orlando Magic made a trade that's still getting side-eyed. Then GM Rob Hennigan sent Victor Oladipo, Ersan Ilyasova, and the draft rights to Sabonis to Oklahoma City in exchange for Serge Ibaka. At the time, people questioned. Looking back, it turned into a disaster for Orlando. Oladipo became an all-star. Sabonis did too. Ibaka, he stayed 8 months before the Magic shipped him to Toronto for Terrence Ross and a pick. That's where the theory starts. Hennigan had previously worked for Oklahoma City before getting the Orlando job. And after being fired in 2017, following a brutal record of 132 in 278, he ended up back in Oklahoma City. Fans started doing the math. A one-sided trade, a direct pipeline of talent, and a return to his old team? The theory says it wasn't incompetence, it was sabotage, that Hennigan knew what he was doing all along, playing it long and quiet to hand over key pieces that would shape the Thunder's future. Oklahoma City didn't waste the haul. They used Oladipo and Sabonis to land Paul George. Then George helped bring in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a full chain reaction. Meanwhile, Orlando got a short Ibaka stint and a lingering sense of regret. There's no proof Hennigan tanked the trade on purpose. Execs move around the league all the time, but the optics? Rough. The trade reshaped both franchises. One climbed, one stalled. Whether it was sabotage or just a career-defining whiff, the theory lives on because the timeline just lines up too perfectly. And that's all conspiracy theories need. A little doubt and a lot of bad hindsight. Level 8. The Abyss. Ersan Ilyasova is not actually him. The theory says the Turkish forward, known for draining threes and drawing charges, isn't who he claims to be. According to the conspiracy, Ersan Ilyasova was actually born as Arsen Ilyasov in Bukhara, Uzbekistan, back in 1984, not in Turkey in 1987. Here's where things get weird. In 2002, records show an 18-year-old named Arsen Ilyasov crossed into Turkey and disappeared from Uzbek documentation. Not long after, a man in Turkey registered a 15-year-old son named Ersan Ilyasova, claiming he forgot to do it earlier. No previous Turkish paperwork, no school records, just a brand new identity that suddenly lined up with a promising basketball career. Critics point to his last name. Ilyasova is a rare surname in Turkey, and the ova ending is more common in Slavic culture and typically used for women. That raised eyebrows, especially when Uzbekistan's Basketball Federation filed a formal complaint with FIBA, arguing that Ilyasova was actually Ilyasov and had no right playing for Turkey. FIBA reviewed it, but ruled there wasn't enough evidence to disqualify him. So Ersan kept hooping for the Turkish national team and in the NBA. But the theory didn't go away. It follows him wherever he plays. The strange paperwork, the missing records, the sudden name swap. It all adds up to something that feels off. No confirmed lie, no confession, just a string of coincidences and quiet paperwork. Whether he's Arsen or Ersan, the doubt never really faded. And that's why the theory still sticks. Not because it's proven, but because it's never been fully erased. Thonmaker lied about his age when entering the NBA. In the 2016 NBA draft, Thonmaker was listed as 19 years old, but the theory says he was actually much older, possibly 23 or 24. Fueling the suspicion was a yearbook photo from 2010, showing Maker as a graduating senior at Aaron Moore Catholic College in Australia. If accurate, that would make him 17 or 18 at the time, not 13, like his official records claim. Before the draft, reports surfaced that some NBA teams refused to consider him altogether because they believed he wasn't being honest about his age. The timing, the photo, and the fact that Maker moved through several countries, South Sudan, Australia, the United States, and Canada, made it hard to pin down any official documentation. Critics said his immigration path made it easier to reset paperwork. Physically, stood out. He looked older, moved like a grown man, and had the frame of someone past his teenage years. But despite the questions, no birth certificate from South Sudan ever surfaced. Maker denied everything, and the NBA let him enter based on the documents available. He went 10th overall, but once he got into the league, things didn't click like scouts hoped. He averaged under 5 points per game and never developed into a top-tier talent. Supporters of the theory say age played a major role. If he was already in his mid-20s, the raw potential narrative didn't hold. His development curve made less sense. No one ever confirmed a lie, but no one ever settled the question either. That's why the age theory around Thon Maker still circles. Not proven, not forgotten, just left hanging in plain sight. The NBA forced the Grizzlies out of Vancouver. When the league expanded into Canada in 1995, two teams were born, the Toronto Raptors and the Vancouver Grizzlies. Both started slow, but only one got the league's full attention. The Raptors caught fire with Vince Carter leading the way. The Grizzlies, not so lucky. Vancouver never got a superstar. Their best player, Sharif Abdur-Rahim, put up solid numbers, but never pushed them into relevance. The team kept losing, and the fans stopped showing up. In year one, the Raptors were third in league attendance. The Grizzlies were 14th, and it only got worse from there. Behind the scenes, things didn't look much better. Owner John McCaw Jr. lived in Seattle and barely engaged with Vancouver. Local sponsors stayed away. The Canadian dollar was weak, travel costs were high, and there was no big-name talent willing to sign in British Columbia. That's when the theory takes shape. As interest dropped, the NBA quietly pulled back support. Less promotion, less visibility, and no real plan to help the team stay afloat. It felt like they'd already decided Vancouver wasn't part of the long-term picture. After 6 straight losing seasons, the Grizzlies were shipped off to Memphis. The league called it relocation, but many saw it as abandonment. The NBA never admitted it failed in Vancouver. Instead, it walked away and hoped fans would forget. The theory says the league wanted out. Rather than build a path to success in Western Canada, they let the franchise fade, then handed it off to a city they believed would fit better into the NBA machine. Not a market problem, a league decision. That's what keeps this theory alive. Jimmy Butler is Michael Jordan's son. This theory claims Jimmy Butler isn't just a star in his own right. He's secretly the son of Michael Jordan. It started in 2016 when a post on a gossip site suggested Jordan had a hidden child born in 1989. The story goes like this. Jordan allegedly fathered a son in 1988, paid the mother to stay silent, and stopped payments 13 years later. That's when, supposedly, the child was kicked out. The theory got louder because of Butler's real backstory. He was born in September of 1989 in Houston. His father left early, and he was kicked out by his mother at 13. The ages line up loosely, and Jordan was reportedly in Texas around that time. Supporters point to more than timing. They say Butler looks like Jordan. They say his intensity, his clutch gene, his attitude, all feel familiar. Even the way he carries himself on the court. They're both fierce, driven, and seem to thrive off being underestimated. But here's the snag. There's no evidence. Butler's mother is Londa Butler, and there's no connection between her and Jordan. No documentation, no confirmed history, no public statement. The timeline also falls apart when you look closer. And despite all the rumors, neither Butler nor Jordan has ever commented seriously on the idea. Still, the theory sticks around. Maybe it's the mystery. Maybe it's just fans trying to explain how someone like Butler showed up and started torching teams out of nowhere. True or not, it's become one of the NBA's most talked about legends. No DNA test, no confirmation, just speculation and screenshots. The kind of rumor that lives on because nobody really shuts it down. Yao Ming lab creation theory. The idea here is that Yao Ming wasn't just a once-in-a-generation talent. He was shaped long before he ever touched a basketball. The theory starts with his parents. His dad stood 7 feet tall. His mom stood 6'3", and both played professionally. They were widely known as the tallest couple in China. According to the theory, that pairing wasn't just destiny, it was nudged. The belief is that officials encouraged them to have a child who could eventually become the country's athletic centerpiece. Not long after Yao was born, in 1980, reports say state officials monitored his growth closely. They measured him constantly, projected he'd pass 7 feet, and built a plan around it. Regular school took a backseat. Yao was placed in a sports institution that funneled him toward basketball. By 13, he wasn't doing normal teen things. He was training 10 hours a day with the Shanghai Sharks junior system. The theory says this wasn't random hard work. It was a pipeline built for tailored nutrition, guided medical care, early national team access, everything he needed to become China's basketball face. The one-child policy only made the pressure heavier. With one shot at raising a standout, his development became a national project. By 17, he was already in the highest tiers of Chinese basketball. And by the time he reached the NBA, he wasn't just a player, he was a symbol the country had invested in since birth. After his career, he stayed connected to the system that raised him, eventually becoming chairman of the Chinese Basketball Association. The theory doesn't go into science fiction. No test tubes, no secret labs. It paints something quieter. a government-guided blueprint that started with his parents and shaped everything that followed. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.